This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate first part of What If Naruto Awakened Gravity Manipulation during Land of Wave arc. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Not wasting no more time. Let's start the story.
Haku said, "I can't die yet, Naruto," before teleporting off. "No, Haku, you can't die yet," Naruto remarked, attempting to stop him. Time seemed to stop abruptly as he took a single step forward. A voice said, "Do you want to save your friend?" Naruto glanced around, but saw no one. "Oh, sorry. You can't see me, can you?" A figure appeared out of thin air. The individual had a blue crystal on his right cheek and was blonde with blue eyes. He was dressed in blue jeans, black shoes, a brown shirt underneath, and a high-collared beige jacket with chainmail at the shoulders and halfway to his elbows. Wondering if this was a Kyuubi trick, Naruto backed up a little and asked, "Who are you?" The figure answered, "I am Lael, Naruto Uzumaki, one of your ancestors, but you didn't answer my question." When Naruto said, "Yes, I do want to save him." Lael grinned. "Good, now hold still for a second." Lael lifted his left arm, and Naruto tensed as a sphere appeared to encircle it in blue and purple. After separating from Lael's grasp, the sphere flew in Naruto's direction and collided with him. As a second crystal formed on his breastplate and another grew from his right cheek, Naruto let out a cry of mild shock and pain. Lael was asked by Naruto, "What was that?" "I only unlocked your powers, Naruto," Lael clarified. "Your Kekkei Genkei, as it's called today." When Naruto realized how long he had been speaking with his ancestor, he exclaimed, "But what about Haku? He's probably dead by now." "Naruto, this is just in your head," Lael clarified. "It's real, yes, but all of this is only a split second in the real world." Naruto exclaimed, "Okay, so I can save him," with excitement. "You can, and I'll be telling you how to use your powers the whole time," Lael said. "Now go." Time restarted, and Lael faded. Determined to save his friend, Naruto moved and conjured the same sphere that Lael had. Kakashi's lightning blade chirped as he charged Zabuza. He was trying to stab Zabuza when a figure suddenly materialized in front of him. The child. Kakashi's eyes widened as he thought, "I can't stop in time, damn it." Kakashi was suddenly surrounded by a ball of energy and he leapt back a few feet. What the devil? Everyone who witnessed the odd incident thought. The sphere disappeared from Kakashi and resurfaced on Haku, who shot in the same direction and landed just as Naruto emerged from the fog with a smaller sphere in his raised hand. Kakashi stammered, "Naruto. How?" and then gasped when he saw Naruto's cheek. What on earth went wrong? After giving him a, "I'll explain later" look, Naruto turned to face Zabuza. "It's over, Zabuza. You've lost." "He's right, Zabuza," spoke a voice. "I'm so disappointed in you." As the mist cleared, everyone turned to see Gato, the criminal who had terrorized Wave, standing in front of what appeared to be 1,000 bandits. "So you did betray me, Gato," Zabuza demanded, giving the man a fierce look. Gato said, "Of course I did," and then he saw Haku. "Hey, I need to repay that brat for breaking my arm. Men, kill everyone." When the bullets struck an odd purple and blue wall, some of the bandits raised their guns and fired quickly, only to watch them freeze. When the shinobi turned to face Naruto, he saw that his hand was raised and filled with energy. The bullets turned over when Naruto made a gesture. He regained his confidence and fired back at Gato and his men. As the bandits charged, Gato ducked as the bullets flew back and yelled, "Men! Whoever kills that blonde brat gets a 50% bonus." He then sprinted to his boat. As the bandits charged, Naruto gasped. He didn't believe he had the strength to assist. Lael mentally said, "Give me control for a minute, Naruto." "All right," Naruto said. Now in control, Lael stopped Naruto before he could fall forward. Even the bandits were perplexed as to how he managed to eat a food pill without removing his mask, so Kakashi asked, "Naruto, are you okay?" Lael replied, "Yeah, I'm fine," understanding that the ninja would not comprehend that Naruto's body was controlled by his ancestor. "I'll deal with these guys." As all of the ninja's weapons, including Zabuza's sword, rose from the ground and drifted between the shinobi and bandits, pointing at the latter, he wrapped both hands in energy and raised them. Lael said, "Still want to fight?" After giving it some thought, one of the bandits began to retreat, followed by others. As soon as Lael wrapped Gato in energy and brought the businessman in front of the shinobi while he was still floating, all of the bandits fled. Sweating a little, Lael remarked, "Now, Gato, I think you have some checks to write." Man, he thought, "I'm getting rusty. Oh well. Given how long I've been gone, I suppose this is to be expected." "Never," cried Gato. He yelled the final line at Inari and the civilians, who had all just arrived at the bridge armed and prepared to fight. "You sure? I could turn you over to Zabuza. Right?" They gave a roar of approval. Gato looked at Zabuza after his eyes widened as he took in the civilians. "All right, I'll do it. Just put me down." Lael grinned and complied. For a moment, his vision became blurry as he put the man down. He thought, "Damn, I thought I had more time." What took place? He was asked by Naruto, who had witnessed everything. Looking at Naruto, Lael thought, "I guess I wasted a lot of your chakra. I apologize." When Naruto fell, that was the last thing either of them thought. When Naruto awoke, he groaned. He looked around and sat up. He could tell that he was in a place he did not know. He was sitting in what appeared to be a cross between a military bunker and a sewer, with water ankle deep and leaking pipes. He asked aloud, "Where the hell am I?" and received a slap on the back of his head in response. A female voice said, "I would appreciate it if you watched your language, Naruto," and Naruto turned around while massaging his head. Lael and an unidentified woman were standing behind him. She had short blonde hair with what appeared to be large leaves braided into the back, a lovely face, and yellow eyes. She wore short white gloves, a faded red shirt, a blue long-sleeved denim jacket that ended halfway to her waist, and a red, orange short scarf with a green jewel in the front. She was also wearing beige short shorts that had suspenders and a white belt. Another belt except this was bronze, colored with what looked like armor at each side, long black socks that came up halfway to her thighs, and brown shoes. It appeared that the woman was roughly 3 years Lael's junior. Naruto said to her, "Sorry, but who are you?" The woman scowled. "You didn't tell him?" she asked, glancing at Lael. Lael let out a sigh. "I didn't really have time to explain everything." Althea, as she was now called, sighed. "Very well. Naruto, I am Althea Sol Alphateria, wife of Lael, former queen of the Lilti Kingdom, and crystal bearer of barriers." Naruto blinked. "You're my ancestor?" "Yes," Althea said, grinning. "What's a crystal bearer?" Replied, "A crystal bearer is a human who has a crystal magically infused with his or her body. All crystal bearers, except one, had their powers at birth. They are identified by a crystal somewhere on their bodies, like my right cheek or Althea's breastplate at the base of her neck." Naruto carelessly touched the crystals on his breastplate and right cheek. "When Althea gave birth to our first child, we discovered that a crystal bearer's powers can be passed to any offspring he or she produces," Lael continued. With a slight flush, Althea added, "And we also discovered that bearers that lost their powers can still pass their powers to their offspring as well." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked. "How can bearers lose their powers?" With a sigh, Lael recounted the tale of how the Yuke tribe, a race of slender, built humans who were always wearing armor, had been exterminated when the Lilti tribe destroyed the Yuke tribal crystal. However, before a Yuke named Amidate Lion, a crystal bearer with summoning power, showed up and tried to restore the Yuke tribal crystal by collecting its shards, Amidate Lion sacrificed himself by defending Lael from Jegrin, a Lilti and crystal bearer with the ability to crystallize people. The story concluded with Lael's final battle with Jegrin, killing him and restoring the Yuke crystal, which rendered all living crystal bearers except him powerless. "Whoa," exclaimed Naruto. "That's quite the story, but how come you never lost your powers, Lael?" Althea and Lael looked at each other, both frowning thoughtfully. When asked, "Honestly, I don't know," Lael replied. A female voice said, "I have a theory about that," and the three turned to face it. Standing there was a Yuke in dark green robes that Lael recognized. A flat metal circle encircled the top of the Yuke's helmet, which was shaped like an eagle's head and joined by rods that entered the base. Small bat-like wings could be seen on the back of its armor, identifying it as most likely male. To identify it as a crystal bearer, a blue crystal was placed in place of its spine. "Amidate Lion, what are you doing here?" The Yuke looked around and said, "I don't know, but I'd like to know where here is." Another voice said, "I could tell you that," and the quartet turned to see a huge cage that had previously not been there. "Seal" was written in kanji on a small note that was placed on the cage. A huge orange furred fox with 9 tails lay on the ground behind the cage, watching the 4. When Amidate Lion saw the tails, he tensed up. He exclaimed, You're the 9-tailed fox demon," with astonishment and wonder. The fox smiled. "Indeed I am. I am surprised that you 3 crystal bearers are here, and that my vessel is a descendant of Lael." Amidate Lion asked, perplexed, "Vessel?" before turning to face Naruto. "Ah, now I know where we are. We are in young Naruto's Mindscape." Naruto scowled. "This is my Mindscape? I seriously need to remodel the place. Couldn't agree more, said the fox. I should have booked this vacation in advance. Maybe I would have gotten a better place like a beach instead of a sewer. And whose fault is it that my mindscape is like this? Naruto asked the fox, his face contorted in rage. If you hadn't attacked the village, I wouldn't be the village pariah, and my parents, whoever they are, would still be alive. There seems to be a misunderstanding, Amidate Lion stated. The nine-tailed fox demon, or Takeshi as that is his name, would not attack a town, village, or city unless someone from that village attacked him or his family first. Takeshi remarked, you seem to know quite a bit, Yuke, but you are correct. I was tricked into attacking Konoha. 2 men killed my mate and kid and 1 left behind a shinobi headband signifying that they were from Konoha. Naruto scowled. You had to have seen the guys. Did you get a good look at them? Only one, but the other had a strange right hand. The one I got a good look at had pale skin, snake-like eyes, and long black hair. Lael questioned, what was so strange about the other man's hand? It looked like it was made of crystal, but it couldn't have been a crystal bearer. The last one before Naruto died 30 years ago. Saying, maybe not, Lael frowned. Was it possible for Jegren to have been resurrected? Otherwise, who was it? He never had children. Takeshi gave a headshake. The last crystal bearer's crystal was her left middle finger. This other one wasn't even the same gender. Anyway, Naruto responded, what was that theory you mentioned, Amidate Lion? After a moment of confusion, Amidate Lion remarked, oh, right. I believe that Lael retained his powers because they were still needed for some crisis in the future. If that's true, then you were right, Lael remarked. A few years after the Yuke crystal was restored, Jegren was resurrected somehow and attempted to destroy the Lil T crystal again, but I killed him. Perhaps the reason you kept your powers, Lael, is the same reason why Amidate Lion is here, Althea pondered. But a crystal bearer's powers can't be transferred, if that's what you're thinking, Lael explained. He scowled as he thought about what he had said. He thought about when he woke Naruto's powers. Wait, can they? In theory, it should be possible, if you were thinking that I can transfer my powers to Naruto, Amidate Lion replied. But I am not sure it is practical. He considered the situation, but I will try. He raised his hands to his torso, facing each other, and turned to face Naruto. Between his hands, a purple disk of energy developed before floating in Naruto's direction. The blonde genin doubled over in agony as the disk entered her. As a smooth yellow crystal developed along his back spine, Naruto let out a cry. The pain stopped as soon as it started. He got up shakily. The words, that hurt, he said. I didn't think it would be that bad. Amidate Lion said, I apologize for any discomfort you felt, with a small bow. It's all right, expressed Naruto. Then the scene began to dim. Wait, what's going on? You're just waking up, don't worry, Lael said, fading away. Naruto was startled awake. Hey, guys. He asked himself in his mind as he reviewed what he had learned and yawned. Yes? Yes? Lael and Amidate Lion gave their respective answers? Naruto, what is that? Althea inquired worriedly. Naruto clarified, I was just making sure it wasn't a dream. He looked at his clothes and was shocked to see that he was wearing his pajamas. At that moment, his head began to hurt like hell. I guess someone changed me while I was out. Inari opened the door to see how he was doing just as he had that thought. He began to jump and yell with delight upon realizing that Naruto was awake. Naruto grabbed his head and said, NGH. Inari, could you keep it down? My head is killing me. Also, could you put a cup of tea out while I wash up? Sorry, Naruto. Sure, I'll put some tea on the table. Inari promptly calmed down and walked out of the room to lay out the tea. Naruto stood up and went to wash up in the restroom. He looked in the mirror and splashed water on his face. The crystal on his right cheek was still there, as expected. The crystal on his breastplate was still there when he removed his shirt. When he turned to face his back, he noticed that his third crystal was also there. Taking a sigh, he disconnected from Lael and the others to take a quick shower, then changed into fresh clothes and connected again. You ought to buy some new clothes, Lael advised. An orange jumpsuit is inappropriate for a shinobi. Naruto said, yeah, I think I should, and went downstairs. However, the majority of Konoha's clothing stores don't carry anything else. I vowed never to go there unless it was absolutely necessary, but there is one. But I suppose this counts. All I have to do is confirm that my personalized order is long-lasting. To everyone's surprise, he interrupted the conversation as he walked into the kitchen. He saw that Haku and Zabuza were present. I thought you'd be out for at least a few more days, Naruto, Sakura replied. You okay? Naruto took a seat at the table, where Inari had placed the cup of tea, and he said, "Yeah, I'm fine," sitting in an empty chair. "I've always had a lot of stamina, so I recover quicker than most people." "How long have I been out though?" Naruto said after grabbing the cup and sipping some tea. Kakashi answered, "Only 2 days," while burying his nose in his book. Sasuke looked at it and said, "Hey, Dobi, what is that on your cheek? It looks like a crystal." Naruto clarified, "That's because it is a crystal, Teme, it's part of my Kekkei Genkei." To the shinobi, this was shocking. Sakura remarked, "I had no idea you had a Kekkei Genkei. Honestly, I didn't either until I woke it up. Apparently, my ancestors put a few genjutsu on the genetics of it so that if someone was the last of the bloodline and they had no training for its abilities went and activated it, they would be forced to sleep so that they would get an explanation and the location of the clan's scrolls." Naruto told the truth. "I'd be thrown in the crazy shack if I told them the truth." Sasuke let out a grunt. "Pretty clever. What is your bloodline?" "This," Naruto uttered as he made the teacup float to show them his gravity abilities. Pure gravity manipulation. "That's not much of a bloodline, if that's all you can do." Naruto said, "I'm not done," pulling out a kunai and hurling it at the cup, which he had just covered with a barrier. "I can also create barriers at will." Sasuke scowled. "Okay, I'll admit that one is useful. There is another part, but I won't show it until I've read the clan scrolls, otherwise I could screw up," said Naruto. "Anyway," Kakashi said, "now that you're up, we can leave, seeing as the bridge was finished yesterday." Sakura inquired, "What about Zabuza and Haku?" "We'll be coming with you since Kakashi and Naruto technically captured us," Zabuza stated. Later on, at the finished bridge, the shinobi faced Wave's residence. "I guess this is goodbye." Tazuna uttered his words. "Really, thank you for everything." "Don't worry, we were happy to help," Kakashi smiled. When Inari said, "I hope you'll visit us sometime," she was crying. "We will," declared Naruto. After saying, "See ya," the shinobi began to walk away. Before anyone spoke, the citizens waved at them. With a, "That kid," Tazuna called their attention. "It's thanks to Naruto that we pulled through. He inspired Inari, who in turn inspired everyone else." One of the villagers said, "Hey, now that the bridge is done, what are we gonna name it?" Tazuna said, "How about the Great Naruto Bridge?" And many people agreed. Then it's settled. One of the villagers who did not applaud questioned, "Are you sure you want to name the bridge Fishcake?" "No, his name means maelstrom," replied Inari. Naruto tested and grew accustomed to using his gravity powers during the entire journey back. Sasuke remarked, "Okay, quit showing off, Dobi," upon witnessing Naruto fly using his abilities. In response, Naruto said, "I'm just getting used to using my bloodline. I don't want to cause any problems on a mission if I can't use it correctly." Sasuke complained, but he didn't continue to argue. Sakura simply cast a mildly jealous glance at Naruto. When he saw the expression, Naruto said, "What's wrong, Sakura?" Sakura said, "Nothing," turning her head away. According to Naruto, "Didn't look like nothing to me," he scowled. Sakura said, "I guess I just feel like I'm useless," following a minute of silence. "I mean, you have this gravity bloodline. Sasuke has the Sharingan, and I don't have anything to help." "It's not easy having a bloodline, Sakura," Naruto remarked. "I have to be careful using mine. Otherwise, I could end up hurting people I don't want to see hurt." Sakura said sadly, "Still. Look, if you're worried about not being able to contribute to the team, maybe you should read up on medical jutsu," said Naruto. Then he flipped, surprising the two Chunin who were watching the gates of Konoha by landing in front of them. Not a second later, Kakashi and the others touched down. According to one of the Chunin, "Kakashi, you're slipping. A genin beat you to the gates." Kakashi said, "I wasn't really trying, ow," without raising his head from his book. "Anyway, we need to sign our prisoners in." "Whatever, I'll put back." They went to the Hokage tower after signing Haku and Zabuza in. Other than the villagers staring at Naruto, not much happened. Zabuza wanted to throw a little key at them, but Haku glared back. Zabuza drew the three genins' attention by asking, "Naruto, why do they glare at you like that?" Zabuza was intrigued by Naruto's response, "Sorry, but I'm not allowed to talk about it," but the former mist nin dropped it. When Zabuza and Haku arrived at the Hokage's office, they left their weapons with the secretary. The amount of paperwork on the Hokage's desk nearly brought the third member of the group to tears when they entered his office. Sakura gave Naruto a slap on the head for greeting the Hokage, saying, "Still the same monotony, huh, old man?" She reprimanded him, saying, "Naruto, show Lord Hokage some respect, instead." The Hokage laughed and replied, "It's all right, Sakura. Naruto and I have a deeper bond than leader and subordinate. But I am surprised to see Zabuza Momochi here. It turns out Tazuna lied about the mission, and it was revealed to be A rank, not the C rank we were given," Kakashi stated prior to delivering his oral. "I see," Hiruzen leaned back and said, "Why are you here, Zabuza?" "I would like to join the village, Lord Hokage." He summoned an ANBU, who escorted the two to the aforementioned interrogator. "Very well, but you and Haku will have to be evaluated by Ibiki, then serve a month long probation if you pass said evaluation." "Naruto, what happened to your cheek? It looks crystallized," Hiruzen said. "Don't tell me that you activated your bloodline, please." Naruto said, "My bloodline was activated, which caused the Hokage to sigh. What's wrong?" In response, the Hokage turned to face Sasuke and Sakura and said, "I really hoped your bloodline didn't activate until you were at least 16 years old, Naruto. The council will be angry about this, but there is nothing they can do about it, since the laws are on your side. You two leave. I want as few people as possible to know about this." The two dismissed genin considered arguing but changed their minds. The elderly Hokage opened a desk drawer after turning on the office's security seals. "This was written by your father shortly before he died. He wanted me to give it to you either when you activated your bloodline or when you turned 16, whichever came first," he explained as he produced a scroll and gave it to Naruto. Taking the scroll, Naruto opened it. "I sincerely regret that I will not be able to watch you grow up, Naruto. The 9-tailed fox demon is coming, so I can't say much. I am aware that the civilians will find it difficult to accept you, but keep in mind that you are a human being and a descendant of the fabled crystal bearer Lael, not the fox. Although it may be difficult to accept, this is the reality. After tonight, you will be his only surviving descendant. Keep your friends close and never give up. Show the people that you are not the fox. I apologize once more for putting you through this. I'm hoping you'll pardon me. Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage and Yellow Flash of Konoha, is your father." When Naruto had finished reading the scroll, he looked down. Kakashi and the Hokage hung their heads in sorrow at Naruto's statement, "So my father is the same man who sealed the 9-tailed fox within me." Everyone, both visible and invisible, laughed when he said, "But he was Hokage. How could a leader force any other parent to make a sacrifice like that? I understand his position, but I'm still going to slug him when I see him in the afterlife." "Is this all, old man?" "Not quite," said the Hokage. "I have a feeling you're keeping something from me." Naruto let out a sigh. He scowled and said, "It's just, I don't know how to explain it. Is there a way for you to enter my Mindscape?" Everyone was taken aback by this. "Yes, why?" inquired the Hokage. "It'll be easier to explain." The Hokage also let out a sigh. "All right. I assume you want Kakashi to join us?" "Yes." The Hokage got up, walked around his desk, and put a hand on Naruto's shoulder while Kakashi grasped the other shoulder. "Okay, let's see what you want to explain," he said. Then Naruto pulled them into his mental image, the Mindscape of Naruto. When the 3 shinobi awoke, they discovered that they were in a sewer-like setting. Looking around, Hiruzen said, "My god, is this really your Mindscape, Naruto?" Naruto joked, "Yeah, I need to remodel the place, huh? Only thing is, I don't know how." "I could help you with that," Takeshi said, drawing the elder shinobi's attention. When the Hokage and Kakashi turned around, they saw Takeshi in his heyday. With caution, Hiruzen inquired, "What do you want?" Takeshi began by saying, "I just want to tell you what really happened the night I attacked the village," before going into further detail. "So, that's why," stated Kakashi. He knew the fox was telling the truth. "You made a foolish mistake." Takeshi said, "That about sums it up," and nodded. "Is that all?" Lael remarked, "No, you also have us to talk to," as he, Amidate Lion, and Althea vanished from the shinobi's line of sight. It would be an understatement to say that Kakashi and the Hokage were taken aback. Kakashi yelled, "What the hell?" Naruto said, "Calm down, Kakashi. Sene," before introducing them and the bearers giving their bios. "I see," said Hiruzen. "Well, this is surprising. I didn't know that Naruto's bloodline came from crystal bearers." Lael scratched his crystal and remarked, "To be honest, I didn't know that would happen until after it did." Naruto said, "That's all I wanted to tell you," and he and the shinobi departed. Actual world. After opening their eyes, the 3 shinobi discovered that they were once again in the Hokage's office. After shaking his head, the Hokage took a seat in the chair behind his desk. He remarked, "Well, that was enlightening, Naruto. I would prefer it if you do not tell anyone about what we've talked about unless you absolutely trust him or her, understand? Yes, said Naruto. One thing. When can I move into my house? His grandfather figure said, just as soon as you sign the release forms, and took out some papers. After reviewing them, Naruto took a seat and signed them. Well, that settles it. You can gather your things and move in today. Kakashi, would you accompany him? After saying, of course, Lord Hokage, Kakashi and Naruto departed the office. Shortly after, the two nin left the building and unintentionally ran into Hinata Hyuga, a shy, blue-haired, white-eyed girl dressed in dark blue shinobi pants and a heavy beige jacket with a mesh shirt underneath. Naruto said, "Oh, sorry, Hinata," which made her faint and blush a lot from the intense contact with the boy she had a major crush on. Before she could hit the ground, Naruto grabbed her. Kakashi. Sensei, what did I do? That would be telling, now, wouldn't it? Said Kakashi with a knowing smile. After giving his sensei a fierce look, Naruto placed Hinata on a bench and sat down beside her to wait for her to awaken. They would make a good couple, Kakashi thought as he looked at them. He started to strategize ways to accomplish this. I wonder what I could do to get them together. It wasn't until Naruto said, "You okay, Hinata?" that Hinata woke up and sat up, failing to notice him at her side. Blushing, Hinata exclaimed, "Eep, I'm fine, Naruto-kun." You sure? Naruto inquired, observing her reddening. He touched her forehead with his hand. You don't have a fever, do you? He's T. Touching me, Hinata thought, her blush deepening. I will faint if he continues to do this. After removing his hand, she said, I'm fine, and Naruto-kun. Why you don't have to worry about M.me? She nodded when Naruto asked, are you sure you're okay? If you're sure, just don't overdo it, okay? Oh, okay. Well, Naruto said as he got to his feet, I have to leave. Perhaps we could grab some ramen sometime? I is he asking M.me out? Hinata thought, blushing once more. IIW. Would L. Like that. Cool. How about tomorrow at 3? Said Naruto, grinning. S's. Sure. I'll see you tomorrow, and Naruto-kun. Yeah, see ya, Hinata. Chan. He then departed with Kakashi, leaving behind him a heavily flushed Hinata who was on the verge of fainting once more. Kakashi remarked, well, that was a surprise, Naruto. The response from Naruto was, yeah, I don't know why I asked her out, or why I added the suffix, it just felt right. The hint was, maybe you like her, Kakashi said. Naruto scowled thoughtfully. Maybe, he replied. I'll think about it tonight. For the remainder of the trip, the two walked in silence, each absorbed in their own thoughts. They both agreed that something interesting was about to happen. Kakashi and Naruto were standing in front of a gate that opened into Naruto's ancestral home. House would be an understatement, though. Naruto encountered a stunning 3-story building with an overgrown side garden in place of the straightforward 4-bedroom home he had anticipated. It appeared as though people were still residing in the immaculate building. Although the grass was a little high and the garden was overrun with weeds, it still appeared to be a place where one could live. Naruto let out a whistle. Nice place, but I thought my dad was humble, from what I've heard. Kakashi nodded and responded, he was. Your mother was the one who designed the house. Unfortunately, your father had no say in how it looked apart from the training grounds in the backyard, a meditation room, and a larger library than what Kushina wanted. Everything else was Kushina's idea. Naruto exclaimed, so, basically, my dad was whipped, while laughing. Kakashi also laughed. I guess you could say that. He took 2 identical keys out of his pocket. After saying, here, he gave them to Naruto. These are the keys to the estate. Naruto said, thanks, sensei, acknowledging both. But why do you have them? Your father gave them to me to hold on to until you were the legal owner of your inheritance. Anyways, I have to be going. Wait, you're not gonna stick around? No, replied Kakashi. I have things to do. Oh, there won't be any training or missions tomorrow. I forgot to tell you earlier. Naruto narrowed his eyes and remarked, that doesn't have anything to do with my plans tomorrow, does it? Maybe, maybe not. I just think you guys need a break. Later. Kakashi simply gave an smile before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Naruto moaned as he opened the gate and entered, then locked it again. He inspected the house carefully and did the same with the front door. The air conditioning, water, and lights all functioned, the furniture was immaculate, and not a dust particle was on anything. When Naruto realized the final detail, He scowled. Was everything turned back on by the elderly man? Meh. I haven't even discussed that with him yet. As he had anticipated, there was nothing in the refrigerator when he opened it. I'll need to go buy some food. That means more ramen, I see. No, Naruto, Althea reprimanded him, you will eat properly from now on. But, Naruto began to object. Young man, don't argue, Althea gave the order. Reluctantly, Naruto said, sigh, fine, but then he grinned. What is it? Lael inquired with his descendant. Naruto clarified, it's just that listening to Althea tell me what to eat kind of made me realize what I've been missing. I've never experienced what it's like to have a family because I've been an orphan for a very long time, it feels good. Naruto's admission made everyone smile, but Amidate Lion's smile was hidden from view. Naruto checked his inventory and then went to the library to examine it more closely. His mouth fell open when he saw how large it was. 1/4 of the first floor was devoted to the library. Its walls were lined with books of history, scrolls explaining taijutsu, seals, chakra control exercises, and jutsu. Before being further arranged by rank, the jutsu were arranged based on their constituent elements. After elemental jutsu, medical jutsu came next, then non-elemental jutsu. The organization of the sections on seals and taijutsu styles was identical. The history books were arranged in chronological order, followed by legends, and lastly, the history of the clan. Scrolls describing the clan's Kekkei Genkei techniques and the taijutsu styles that incorporate them were finally located to the right of the entrance. Naruto exclaimed, whoa, as he peered at the scrolls. That's a big library, Kakashi. Sensei wasn't kidding. There's gotta be at least 2,000 scrolls and books here total. Seeing things through Naruto's perspective, Lael remarked, that is the best estimate. It's gonna take years to learn all these, let alone master them. Takeshi remarked, we could practice in your Mindscape, however, you might want to start with the remodeling. Otherwise, I won't be able to assist. How can my Mindscape help me learn all of these things more quickly? In your Mindscape, time flows differently, Takeshi clarified. It would only take a few minutes to leave your Mindscape even if hours passed in here. But, at least for the taijutsu styles of your clan, we shouldn't do that. The physical training is also necessary. However, you could practice sparring against them after learning the theory with the aid of shadow clones. Huh? In what ways can shadow clones assist? Naruto prompted Takeshi to perform the fox face vault in order to answer his question. You don't realize that you are aware of everything your clones do? Takeshi essentially yelled. No, I was unaware of that. Well, you do now, complained Takeshi. After thinking, I'll begin working on this once I have everything I need. Naruto created a few shadow clones and instructed them on what to acquire. Then it struck him. After I figure out what I want, I also need to go to that store to get a new set of clothes. Yeah, that will work. He located a blank scroll, took a seat, and sketched the clothing he desired, including all the details and annotations. Before long, he was done. I just have to go to that store now. He departed after thinking that, leaving a clone to open the gate for the other clones upon their return. Later on, Naruto entered the Shinobi's Path, the only ninja.run store that sold weapons and clothes and was actually run by a ninja. The proprietors and staff never detested Naruto for his burden. Rather, they honored Minato's final request because they saw him as a hero. Thankful to them, Naruto never purchased clothing from their store, only weapons. Today, however, that would be different. The clerk grinned broadly when he saw Naruto when he looked up, saying, "Ah, Naruto, what can I do for you?" "Hey, Okichi," Naruto said, passing the scroll to her, "I need 8 sets of a special order done." The clerk's eyebrows went up as she opened the scroll and examined it. She read it over and then nodded. After saying, "Okay, the first should be done in a few hours," she gave it to a colleague who hurried into the rear room. "If you want, you could wait here." "I guess," said Naruto. Naruto examined the different outfits and weapons as he waited. The bell rang as someone else entered the store, roughly 10 minutes before the first set was supposed to be finished. Naruto turned to see who it was, and when he realized it was Hinata, his heart pounded in his chest. "Hinata, what are you doing here?" Hinata gave a little start and turned around to see Naruto, flushed. Well, I am restocking my kunai and shuriken. But what are you doing here, and Naruto.kun. I'm waiting on a special order to be done, which is now finished ahead of schedule, Okichi exclaimed, causing the genin to jump as she gave Naruto the outfit. She gestured to the rooms and said, "The changing room is over there." Thanks, said Naruto. "How much do I owe you?" Okichi ruffled his hair and smirked teasingly, "You'll have to wait until the other 7 sets are finished." After scowling for a moment, Naruto complained about Okichi's behavior and went to the changing areas to get dressed. She can really irritate you. Hinata gave Okichi a look. How do you kn? No n Naruto.kun. Okichi gave a pitiful smile. I've known him for years. My father and I found him hiding in the park during winter when he was 4. My father was furious when Naruto said the orphanage kicked him out. The thought made her shiver. We took him to Hokage Sama, who unfortunately wasn't able to convince the civilian council to let father adopt him. Instead, Naruto's been living in an apartment provided by Hokage Sama. She gave a glum expression. Her eyes widened at her slip, and she shut her mouth instantly. He's been though a lot, all for something he had no control over. Hinata said, Is something wrong? Okichi stated, I'm not allowed to talk about it. She then shifted the topic, saying, please don't press the issue. So, I've heard a few rumors about you and Naruto, Hinata. Hinata's face flushed. Don't kn. No w. What y? Mean. Okichi laughed and said, don't deny it, Hinata. I can tell you have it bad for him. Hinata's fingers pressed together. She muttered, Is it th? That obvious. Not really, Okichi told her in order to assist her. But listen. Naruto doesn't know what it means to care about someone like how you care about him. You'll have to be patient, but I think you two would make a great couple. Your kids would look adorable. The idea of having Naruto's children made Hinata flush once more, almost passing out. When Naruto reappeared wearing his new attire and saw Hinata's face, he said, Hinata, are you okay? Hinata looked and then passed out with a single thought, a very red face, and a slight nosebleed. He's hot. Oh my Kami. Naruto had switched out his orange jacket for Lael's black one. There were 3 triangle-shaped symbols on the back. The white clavet symbol was near his left hip, the lil T symbol was near his right, and the red swirl from his old jacket was close to the base of his neck. He was dressed in black ninja slacks, black ninja sandals, and a standard dark blue ninja shirt underneath his jacket. Before Hinata could fall to the ground, Naruto hurried up to her and grabbed her. Hinata. What happened, Okichi? Okichi simply grinned. Maybe it was your new look, Naruto. Huh? Okichi laughed. One day, you will understand what I mean. But not today, cause I'm not saying anything. Why not? Cause it's more fun that way. With a groggy groan, Hinata awoke. Naruto said, Hinata, are you okay? I'm fine, Naruto.kun. What made you faint? Hinata said, half asleep. Y.ul. Look H.hot, and blushed when she realized what she had said and to whom. She looked away from Naruto and pressed her fingers together, almost fainting again. Naruto was also blushing profusely. Why don't you think I look hot? Unconfident in her voice, Hinata nodded. Her confirmation caused Naruto to flush even more. Stuttering, Naruto said, Okay, you two, this is a store, not a couple's restaurant, Okichi said in an effort to defuse the situation. It was somewhat successful. The 2 genin split apart without exchanging glances. Naruto departed after saying, I'll see you tomorrow, Hinata. How about we meet at Ichiraku's? Hinata said, okay, and proceeded to purchase her replacement weapons. Okichi simply glanced at each of them before letting out a mental sigh. That went well, she remarked mockingly. As she rang up Hinata's purchases and watched the Hyuga depart, she said, I hope they get past this. If only you understood how she feels about you, Naruto. You shouldn't be alone, in my opinion. Before Naruto left, she realized what he had said. You're like a brother to me. Wait, tomorrow they're going on a date? She grinned. She started to plot after thinking, well, maybe I could do something to help them. The following day, Sakura and Sasuke waited for Kakashi and Naruto at the bridge that became their regular meeting place. Sakura remarked, Naruto's never this late, as she peered around. Only Kakashi. Sensei is this late, even though the scheduled meeting time has been 2 hours ago. You're right, Sasuke replied, but he probably lost track of time reading his clan scrolls. Maybe, but even then, he shouldn't be this late. How could anyone not be this late? The 2 genin turned to face the blonde in question as a voice said, and they gaped at his attire. Naruto? Is that you? Surprised by her teammates' change in attire, Sakura inquired. Yeah, Naruto said as he passed. Sasuke demanded, wait, where are you going? Kakashi. Sensei's gonna be here any second. When he showed up, Kakashi joked, you called. Sakura shouted at him, you're late, so loud that everyone winced. Kakashi rolled his visible eye and said, I know, which irritated Sakura. Anyway, I forgot to mention yesterday that you have today off. Sasuke and Sakura performed a face vault. They shouted, you forgot? At him. Yeah, I did. Sorry. Sakura complained to her sensei as Sasuke began to walk away, saying, well, that was a waste of time. See ya. Sasuke.kun, perhaps we could. Sakura said, turning to face Sasuke. Before she could finish, Sasuke said, no, Sakura, and turned her away. Sakura's eyes were sad as she said, oh. Naruto said, oh, Sakura, attracting her attention. He gave her some scrolls on medical jutsu that he had taken from his library and said, here. When Sakura saw what was inside, she arched her brows. Medical jutsu. Where did you get these? That is a secret, declared Naruto. But don't worry, I didn't steal them. Threatening, you better not have, Sakura said. Naruto yelled as he glanced at the sun's position. He hurried off, saying, crap, I'm gonna be late. See ya later, he returned the call. Sakura looked at Kakashi and blinked. What was that about? You didn't hear it from me, and I don't want you spreading this around, but he's got a date with Hinata today, Kakashi said with an eye. Smile. Sakura exclaimed in disbelief, what? Hinata? When did he ask her out? Kakashi said, not telling, and then vanished in a cloud of smoke. After a few moments of contemplation, Sakura hurried away, determined to see what would happen on the date. Alongside Hinata, wearing a lavender blouse, blue shorts, and her shinobi sandals, Hinata waited for Naruto in front of Ichiraku's. Perhaps he won't show up. She heard someone call her name and turned to face the blonde in question. Maybe I scared him off yesterday. He still looks hot, she thought, blushing. Hey, Hinata, sorry I'm late. I had an errand to run, and I didn't think it would take as long as it did. I'm really sorry, Naruto responded with an apology. It's okay, admitted Hinata. Naruto caught her hand and spun her around as she was about to enter Ichiraku's. After saying, we're not eating at Ichiraku's, Hinata, Naruto led her to a restaurant after a few minutes. Oh, here we are. Hinata's mouth dropped as she gazed at the restaurant. She didn't want Naruto to lose everything because he was taking her out on a date, so she said, N. Naruto.kun, th. This is the S. Second most E. Expensive R. Restaurant in Konoha. I can't let you spend money on M.meh. Here. W. We should go S. Somewhere E, else. Naruto gave a headshake. It's fine, Hinata. I can afford it. She blushed when she said, E. Even so, th. This is T. Too expensive, E. Especially F. F. For an F. F. IRSTD. D. Date. Naruto also flushed. Really, it's fine. Her puppy eyes made him perspire a little. N.no. I circa can't A. Except th. This. P. Please, circa can't W. We go S. Somewhere E. Else. She said. Okay, if it's that important to you, how about you decide? Naruto sighed after a moment. Lael laughed at his descendant's situation in Naruto's Mindscape, remarking, Naruto's so whipped, and they aren't even dating. Whipped, Lael? Althea asked, crossing her arms. Stuttering and drenched in sweat, Lael said, well. Althea said, be quiet, Lael, and cast her gaze back outside. Yes, dear, Lael hung his head and said, now who's whipped? Takeshi thought, laughing. When Hinata returned to reality, she made a stop at a restaurant that would be more appropriate for a first date. The restaurant was called Dendai Don's, and it served everything from ramen to hamburgers and everything in between. How about H? Here, Naruto.kun. After glancing at the restaurant, Naruto nodded and remarked, yes, Dendai Don's is a good place. There weren't many people there when the two entered. As a waiter approached, Naruto thought, it must be a slow day. After giving Naruto a scum on his boots look, the waiter said, I'm sorry, but we're booked for the day. I'm afraid you'll have to go somewhere else. What do you mean you're booked? This place isn't even half full, scowled Naruto. The three turned to see Dendai Don, the owner, approaching them wearing chef's clothes and wearing a frown. Excuse me, a voice said, but what were you saying, Rai? The waiter, Rai, started to perspire. Nothing, Dendai, sir, Rai attempted to pretend to say. Liar, said Dendai. I heard what you told them. One more mess up like that and you can consider yourself fired. Understand? Yes, sir, replied Rai. Dendai remarked, good. Now show our guests to their seats. Rai replied, yes, sir, and led Naruto and Hinata to a tiny booth that was closed off from the others. Rai gave Naruto a covert glare before leaving after he handed them menus and said, please wait one moment. Your server will be here to take your orders soon. Hinata questioned, what was that about, and Naruto.kun, in an attempt to understand why Rai appeared to despise him. After a moment of hesitation, Naruto said, it's nothing, Hinata. Don't worry about it. Hinata saw that he was lying when she looked into his eyes. What would make he lie? Is it his belief that he circa cannot trust me? Hinata appeared dejected until Naruto interrupted. What are you going to order? Hinata glanced at her menu and jumped a little. Well, I think I'll order an medium rare steak with fries and a pages potato. What about you? Naruto.kun. Naruto remarked, I think I'll get the same. Hi, I'm Lin, and I'll be your server today. What can I get you? The server said at that moment. She took note of the genin's orders as they were given and then asked, okay, what would you like to drink? Hinata remarked, some TW. Would be okay. With a slight narrowing of her eyes, Lin said, and you, sir? Some tea as well, said Naruto. With a, got it. Lin noted both orders. She departed to fetch their drinks and deliver their orders to Dendai Don, saying, I'll be back shortly with your drinks. So, Hinata, Naruto said, how about you tell me more about yourself, and I'll do the same. With a shy nod, Hinata said, oh, okay. Then, hesitant at first but growing more assured as she spoke, she began to tell him about herself. As she spoke, Naruto paid close attention and offered encouragement when she paused or fell silent. He discovered that shellfish was her least favorite food, while zenzai and cinnamon buns were her favorites. Her interests included cooking, flower pressing, and honing her clan's methods. She claimed that the clan's taijutsu style didn't seem to suit her when Naruto questioned why about the latter. She blushed angrily when Naruto tried to get her to tell him that part of her dream was to bring her clan together, but she would not reveal what the other part was. They nodded when Lin brought their drinks and informed them that their food would be ready shortly while she spoke. Shortly after, Hinata finished and fell silent, blushing a little from confiding so much to her crush. Naruto began telling her about himself after grinning and thanking her, which caused her to flush even more. When Naruto mentioned that he enjoyed sweets, Hinata listened carefully and made a mental note. She also gave him encouragement and timidly asked for specifics. When he mentioned that vegetables were his least favorite food, she timidly offered to cook for him even though she already knew that ramen was his favorite. Despite their severe blushes, they were able to continue their conversation. Naruto revealed that he enjoyed gardening and playing practical jokes, the latter of which surprised Hinata. She then said something that made him blush after he reiterated his desire to become the greatest Hokage. Hinata blushed as she said, I know why you will be Naruto.kun. After calming his blush, Naruto grinned softly and remarked, thanks, Hinata. I'm glad that I have some people to support me. Hinata grinned at him and flushed even more. That's when their food arrived. After saying a quick prayer of gratitude and thanking Lin, they began to eat. Before Hinata asked Naruto a question that had been bothering her, they ate in silence. Naruto.kun. What is that blue object on your right cheek? His crystal was scratched by Naruto. Naruto stumbled, well, and then glanced around for anyone who might be listening. None existed. Can you keep a secret? He whispered, leaning in close. Hinata nodded, perplexed. This crystal identifies me for who I am, and who my ancestors were. I have another on my breastplate, and one on my back along the spine. Hinata questioned, perplexed, what do you mean, who my ancestors were? My ancestors were the crystal bearers Lael and his wife Althea Sol Alphateria, Naruto revealed, startling Hinata. This crystal on my cheek shows that Lael's powers over gravity have been passed on to me. The crystal on my breastplate shows that Althea's powers over barriers have been passed to me as well. Hinata muttered in surprise, why? You're the last living descendant of the Lael and Althea S. Sol A. Alphateria. Why? You're royalty, and Naruto. K.kun. No, I'm not, denied Naruto. The Lilti kingdom has faded, Hinata. I'm no more royal than any of the civilians. And I don't want any special treatment because of my lineage. That's why I'm telling you. I know you won't treat me any different because of it. Please, Hinata, don't tell anyone. Hinata vowed, I won't, Naruto.kun, but by definition, y.u or r. Royalty. You see. Can ask Lord Hokage if You're not S. Sure. I guess I can ask him, Naruto remarked. N. Naruto.kun? C can I S.see your page's powers over G. Gravity and B. Barriers? Naruto said, not here, Hinata, looking around to make sure there were no eavesdroppers. I'll show you if you want to see them, but somewhere with no one around. Okay, he said as he resumed his meal. As she resumed her meal, Hinata exclaimed, oh, okay, Naruto.kun, anticipating his abilities. Lin stopped by after they were done, took their empty plates, and handed them the check. Naruto left Lin a 750 Ryo tip after paying the entire 1,500 Ryo bill. In order for Naruto to demonstrate his abilities to Hinata, the two genin left Dendai Dons and went to the training grounds. The field was empty when they got there. Hinata gasped as she checked the time by looking at the sun's position. What's wrong? Inquired Naruto. Hinata hurriedly clarified, M.My team W. Will B.Beh. H. Here S. S. Soon, I. IF. Forgot we have a meeting today. Why you have to L. Leave? I'll be in trouble with K Kurenai. Sensei for forgetting. A dot and I don't W. Want you I.int. Trouble E. Either. Naruto said, too late, as he glanced over his shoulder. Hinata's team was standing there when she turned around. Wearing a battle dress that resembled battle wrappings, Kurenai Yuhi, a woman in her 20s with long, slightly curly black hair and red eyes, was staring at the two genin in front of her with a mixture of mild amusement, slight annoyance, and some confusion on her face. Raising his eyebrows was Shino Aburame, a black-haired boy with spiky hair who always wore a gray coat that covered the lower part of his face and always concealed his eyes behind sunglasses. Wearing a gray jacket with the hood up, Kiba Inuzuka, a boy with brown eyes, spiky brown hair, and red fang tattoos on his cheeks, was glaring at Naruto with the intention of killing him. Kiba's little white-haired dog, Akamaru, who typically rode on his master's head, appeared to be grinning. Kurenai remarked, well, Hinata, this is a surprise, failing to recognize Naruto in his new attire. I thought you liked Naruto. Who's this? Simply raising his eyebrows, Naruto declared, I am Naruto. Before Kiba shouted, liar, Naruto wears an orange jumpsuit. Who the hell are you? Kurenai and Kiba appeared stunned. Kiba, use your nose and your brain, Naruto instructed. My last mission made me start to take my ninja career seriously. Kiba merely sneered. You really think I'm gonna believe that? You don't know anything about Naruto, do you? Naruto reiterated, I am Naruto, growing irritated with the Inuzuka. Kiba screamed at Naruto, that's it, you're going down, faker, instead. Naruto just jumped back until he was a safe distance from the others, making Kiba go after him. Before Kurenai could shout at Kiba, Naruto turned to face her and sent her a silent message. I'll take care of him. Kiba shouted, tunneling fang, as he spun his body and turned into a gray sideways tornado aimed at Naruto. Naruto waited until he was 10 feet away before his right hand made a translucent light blue sphere with cubes fading into and out of existence in a circle around the sphere. As Kiba closed in, Naruto was surrounded by a translucent half-sphere of light blue. When Naruto expanded the barrier, the Inuzuka struck it, struggled against it for a few seconds, and was flung back. After landing in a heap on the ground, Kiba exclaimed, what the? He turned to face the person he thought was a phony Naruto and saw the sphere in his hand and the barrier surrounding him. Okay, that proves you're not Naruto. He can't do anything like that. Dropping the barrier, Naruto simply shook his head. You idiot, you're ignoring your nose. Bad idea. Kiba snarled and lunged at him once more, trying to punch him this time. Waiting until he was within striking range, Naruto wrapped blue dot and purple energy around his hand. But being cautious, Kiba sidestepped the blow and delivered a counterpunch that sent Naruto reeling back a few feet. However, Naruto desired that because Kiba was encircled by the same energy that surrounded Naruto's hand. Before being pulled in the direction of Naruto, who spun in midair, Kiba managed to say, wah. Before the energy surrounding him dissipated, Kiba flew forward and up in a quarter circle, sending the unprepared boy flying into a tree trunk with a loud wham. As Team 8 rushed over to see how the Inuzuka was doing, he slid down the tree and landed in a heap on the ground. Well, he's got a few bruises, but that's it. Kurenai checked her student and said, thank you for not doing anything worse, Naruto. Well, I didn't want to do anything else, but I want to know why he didn't believe me, replied Naruto. Shino adjusted his sunglasses and remarked, that is probably because he is very protective of Hinata, Naruto. He thinks of her as a sister, as do I. and neither of us want her to be taken advantage of. He threw out common sense when he did not recognize you. Naruto remarked, well, that's just stupid. Then again, I can't talk, since I hardly used common sense before. Kiba moaned upon awakening. When he opened his eyes, Naruto was there. Why you? He started to strike Naruto, but Hinata stopped him. She said, don't you hurt Naruto-kun, as she disabled him with a gentle fist strike. When she realized what she had done, her eyes, like everyone else's, widened. Her hands shot to her mouth in surprise as she gasped. Kiba moaned, oh. OWWW, and held his stomach. Hinata, W. What are you doing? Kurenai said, calm down, Kiba. Naruto is not a fake. Kiba recognized Naruto's scent and sniffed. Huh? He's not? Kiba uttered the words, you're right. Wait, that means. Oh crap, I'm sorry, Naruto. With sadness. The words, just don't do it again, Kiba, were spoken by Naruto. Hinata shocked her team by blushing and asking, Naruto-kun, circa could I talk to you for an second? P privately? Naruto led her far enough away so her team could see them but not hear them. Sure, he said. What is it? WL, IIW. Wanted T.toa. Ask you if why. You're free th.th. This FF Friday, Hinata said, flushed. ID. Don't H. Have a T. Team M. Meeting, and W. Wanted to KN. No if why. Y.uwou. Would Lee. Like to .tog. Go ou.out th.th. Then? Naruto, who was also flushed, said, well, I'll have to ask Kakashi. Sensei, but yeah, I'd like to go out again. Hinata was so happy she almost passed out. Naruto was saying he wanted to go out again after she had just gone on a date with him. If Naruto hadn't caught her, she would have fallen to the ground as her head swam. Naruto looked into Hinata's eyes and said, whoa, you okay, Hinata? With concern. Whoa. Her eyes are simply. Whoa. Why hadn't I realized that earlier? As her heart pounded against her chest, Hinata thought, his eyes. They're S.so. Deep. As she stood up straight, she said, why? Yes, I think so. Though unsure, Naruto trusted her instincts and let it go. Okay, but if you feel dizzy, you should sit down, okay? Okay. I'll see if I'm free on Friday, and let you know, Naruto said after he hesitated. Hinata said, sure, and walked back to her team. Shyly, Naruto said, Hinata. And the Hyuga turned. After hesitating, he timidly and gently took her chin. Hinata asked in shock, Naruto-kun? Before timidly meeting his lips. She felt as though her heart was going to explode, and her eyes widened as she flushed a deep crimson before closing them. I'll see you later, Hinata. Chan. Naruto withdrew, blushing as deeply as Hinata, and walked away, making sure the other members of Team 8 couldn't see any more of his blush than they had. After standing there in disbelief, Hinata slowly raised a trembling hand to her lips while continuing to blush. He just gave me a knee kiss. Her eyes began to well up with tears of happiness as she fell to her knees, barely believing what had just transpired. Before her mind could handle it any longer, she fainted with a blissful smile on her face, her heart hammering against her chest as she repeated what had happened. Her team simply stood there in awe. After just one date, Naruto finally planted a kiss on Hinata. It was hard for them to believe that she was getting the man she wanted so quickly. In their minds, Kiba and Shino vowed to beat Naruto to death if he injured her, and Kurenai vowed to torture him if he did the same. Knowing that things were about to get really interesting, they jolted out of their reverie when they noticed Hinata fainting and hurried to her. With a shudder, Naruto asked himself, why'd I feel like I'd be in a lot of pain if I hurt Hinata? Sakura, who had spent the entire date observing Naruto and Hinata, shared Team 8's thoughts, but she also thought this was a really juicy story. She didn't care that Hinata hadn't asked Naruto out on another date or that Naruto had mentioned his ancestry in Dendai Dons. For a long time, she could make fun of her teammate for something. The idea of Naruto's reaction when he learns that she is aware of his first actual kiss made Sakura laugh. Naruto was pondering while strolling down the street. He kissed Hinata without knowing why. He simply did. The fact that she asked him out on another date might have contributed to it. Or something similar. Yes, it must have been that. The council has requested your presence, Naruto Uzumaki, and Enbu said as it dropped in front of him. When? Asked Naruto as he jolted from his reverie. The Anbu put his hand on Naruto's shoulder and shunshine to the council room doors, taking Naruto with him. Immediately. You were expected to be there 10 minutes ago, but I could not find you due to your wardrobe change. He removed his hand and walked out right away. After being instructed to do so, Naruto knocked on the doors and went inside. In addition to the civilian council, which was glaring at him, he noticed that all of the clan heads were present. Naruto nodded when Hiruzen gave him a fleeting smile. Naruto said, "May I ask why I have been summoned?" "Don't give us that." A councilman who wasn't a member yelled at him. "You were supposed to be here 10 minutes ago." "Sorry for the delay. The Anbu sent to find me was expecting to see me wearing an orange jumpsuit. Kind of hard to find someone when they don't wear what they usually do." Hiruzen remarked, "In any case, you're here now what is the matter about?" "We would like to see proof of such claims," said Homura, a council elder, after hearing from Naruto's teammate Sasuke Uchiha that Naruto apparently has a bloodline. With a sigh, Naruto withdrew a kunai. He threw it into the air and used his gravity abilities to catch it, causing it to float in midair. "Is that enough proof?" "That could be a trick, I say," said another elder, Kotaro. Hiyashi Hyuga, Hinata's father and the leader of the Hyuga clan, stated, "No, it is not," while wielding a Byakugan. "This is indeed a bloodline. A very ancient one, in fact." "What do you know about it, Hiyashi-sama?" inquired the third elder, Danzo, inquisitively. "This bloodline stems from before the age of shinobi," Hiyashi clarified. "The first person to carry the bloodline was someone we all have heard about, the crystal bearer Lael. Shikaku Nara was absent, and the rest of the council was taken aback." "El Lael?" inquired Kotaro. "This boy is a descendant of Lael?" "He is," said Hiruzen. "That also makes him the last living descendant of Althea Sol Aphiteria as well. And he has inherited her bloodline as well." "Naruto-sama, I would like to arrange a marriage contract between you and my daughter." Sakura's father, Daiki Haruno, got up and spoke. Naruto cut him off, saying, "No, I will not marry anyone who loves me only for my title. You can forget about your contract." Angrily, Daiki took a seat. He believed Naruto admired his daughter and would welcome the opportunity to spend time with her. Homura grinned and remarked, "In any case, Naruto-san, you will have to go through the Clan Restoration Act. If you do not find at least 2 wives by the time you are a Chunin, we, the council, will be able to select for you." "May I see the wording of the Clan Restoration Act, so I can be sure that that's true?" Naruto asked after scowling for a moment. An ABNU brought a law book, which Hiruzen gave to Naruto along with instructions on which section to consult. With a frown, Naruto turned to read the section on the CRA. He began to smirk as he read more, which alarmed the civilian council and left the shinobi council wondering what was on his mind. Then Naruto burst out laughing, giving the impression that he had discovered a weakness, which he actually had. Kotaro questioned, "What is so funny, Naruto-san?" Naruto retorted, "You can't force me to take multiple wives. The CRA states that, if only 3 or fewer males remain of a clan, and no females of said clan remain, they may take more than 1 wife, under the approval of the current Hokage. If they decide to take multiple wives, they may let the current Hokage decide for them, after they state how many wives they will take. Only a Hokage will be able to decide the wives in this case, with no exceptions. They may, not are required. I decide for myself if I want more than 1 wife, and if I choose to have more than one, only the Hokage may choose them if I don't want to choose them. You, the council, can't force me to do anything." He looked over the law book to determine if Naruto was correct. Hiruzen laughed and said, "Naruto is right. That's what the CRA says. He and I will talk about it later." While the shinobi council was grinning, the civilian council was taken aback. Now that this issue has been resolved, is Naruto worried about anything else? "Then you are dismissed," the council said, shaking their heads. Hiyashi turned to Naruto and said, "Naruto-san, I would like to speak with you for a moment, if you can spare the time." The entire council filed out except for Hiyashi, Hiruzen, and Naruto. In response, Naruto said, "Yes. What is it? I want to talk about you and my daughter Hinata signing a marriage contract. She would rather love a man for who he is than his title because she doesn't care about social standing. I only ask that you spend more time getting to know her before deciding." With an anxious laugh, Naruto remarked, "Well, I've already gone out on a date with her." "I already know that you had asked her on a date, but I did not know it was today." Naruto began to become more apprehensive. "Well, I kind of kissed her, too." He stiffened, anticipating the blast. Ignoring his fatherly rage, Hiyashi simply raised an eyebrow and said, "So you're willing to draft a marriage contract between you two?" With great discomfort, Naruto uttered, I don't know, Hiyashi-san, I don't really know how I feel about her. I would appreciate it if you would give me some time to work out my feelings. Hiyashi nodded and said, that's fine. I can give you a month, but no more. Why just 1 month? Hiruzen inquired. Because she is being married off to clans outside of this village by the Hyuga Elder Council. They're very insistent about it. I guess I don't have a choice, Naruto sighed. Okay, I'll update you in a month. Thank you, said Hiyashi, bowing slightly. He departed after saying, I hope you won't regret whatever decision you come to. Hiruzen remarked, I hope you know what you are doing, Naruto, Hiyashi. Naruto concluded, it's clear that he doesn't want Hinata to suffer. He's just trying to keep her safe. He also doesn't want her to leave Konoha. When he found out about my ancestry, I believe that's why he seized the opportunity. That may be, but he may make the contract so that it benefits him more, Hiruzen stated. Maybe, smirking, Naruto said, but he doesn't know that I have someone who can deal with that. He indicated with his middle and index fingers touching his belly. With a sly smile, Hiruzen nodded. Aside from the CRA, is there anything else you would like to talk about? Just one thing. I'm royalty, Hinata said when I told her about my background. The Lilti kingdom, however, has diminished. In any case, am I royalty? You have royal blood in your veins, Hiruzen said, leaning back and considering the best way to phrase it. Regardless of whether the kingdom still exists or not, that alone would make you a member of royalty. However, that does not imply that you have the same rights as a daimyo. However, Naruto, be advised that many daimyos will want you to wed their daughters once they learn about your ancestry. Some people will even attempt to buy your way into it. However, you don't need to be concerned about our daimyo. He'll probably send his daughter here just to meet you and see if you'd be interested in marrying her. His daughter's happiness is more important to him than her misery. You said will, scowled Naruto. Is that to say he already knows? Unfortunately, yes, Hiruzen replied. I'm sorry, but he told me to tell him if anyone with Namikaze blood was alive after Takeshi's forced attack. With a sigh, Naruto remarked, what a drag. Some lazy ninja sneezed a few miles away. Now, Naruto, what are you going to do about the CRA? Hiruzen laughed. Naruto stated, I don't know old man, adding, I might fall in love with more than one woman, but I would prefer to have just one wife. At this, a certain white-haired Sannin violently sneezed. I know that rarely occurs outside of perverted romance novels, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. I'm not sure what to choose. Maybe you should wait until you're of legal marrying age to decide, proposed Hiruzen. After giving it some thought, Naruto nodded and said, yeah, I think I'll do that. He got up and said, see ya, old man. Be careful, Naruto. I only hope there won't be a lot of paperwork when the village finds out about your ancestry. Have you ever used shadow clones before? They were really helpful in fixing up my house, Naruto said, pausing in front of the doors. When I become Hokage, I'm sure to use them. Hiruzen merely sat there and mumbled, stupid, 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 before banging his head against the table. How come I never considered that? Hiruzen shunshined to his office, made a few shadow clones, and completed his paperwork 5 times faster than Naruto, who simply laughed and walked away. The following day, Naruto was headed to the meeting point for his team, thinking. For some reason, his thoughts kept drifting back to Hinata, though he was trying not to think about her at the moment. It wasn't helping that Takeshi kept sending him images of when he kissed the pale-eyed girl. He thought about his training in his Mindscape the day before, after he changed it to a forest after Takeshi explained how. Amidate Lion decided to teach him a few Tier 1 spells, though he only learned Cure, Gravity, Zero Gravity, Barrier, and Arrow, though he quickly mastered Gravity and Zero Gravity due to his natural affinity for gravity. Barrier and Arrow were not far behind, but Cure he needed a lot of work on. Amidate Lion also taught him how to summon tamed zoos and behemoths, though he only could summon small ones so far. He also trained in the Gravity Fist Taijutsu style outside of his Mindscape using clones, but was far from perfecting it since the scroll detailing it was as big as his arm. But at least he was making progress. He got there before his teammates, so he decided to practice controlling gravity by making the water float and attempting to form the 4 tribes symbols. He was able to create the Clavet and Lilti symbols, but he was unable to keep them together when he attempted to create the Selkie symbol. After an hour, he gave up when he heard footsteps approaching him and instantly refilled the stream beneath the bridge. He turned to see Sakura and Sasuke approaching him. Sakura sporting a glint in her eyes that Naruto, for some reason, didn't like, while Sasuke had a bewildered expression. Morning, Naruto greeted them. HN, Sasuke said, leaning against Naruto's rail. Sakura said, "Good morning," and then, with a sly smile, she inquired, "I noticed that your date with Hinata went well, if that kiss was any indication." As Sasuke looked at him in disbelief, Naruto used his abilities to throw his female teammate into the stream, blushing a deep crimson that is typically reserved for Hinata. "How the hell do you know about that?" she was shouted at by Naruto. After Kakashi's sensei informed me of the date, I made the decision to, spy on you. Despite Naruto's blush, Sakura's response was shaky because she was afraid of his face. Sakura exhaled in relief as she pulled herself out of the stream, but Naruto added, "But don't think you're off the hook yet, Sakura." Naruto gave her a glare for a few seconds before breaking into an evil smile. "Okay, Kakashi. Sensei is gonna get it now." "I knew it was a bad idea to mention it, now he's really mad at me," Sakura moaned and hung her head. "And why the hell did you tell your guardians about my bloodline?" Naruto asked, turning to face Sasuke. In response, Sasuke said, "If I have to go through the CRA, so do you. You're not required to. The CRA is entirely voluntary. You have the option to take more than one wife, and if you do, the Hokage is the only one who can make the decision for you. There's nothing the council can do about it," Naruto clarified. Following a scowl, Sasuke remarked, "Homura and Kotaro said it was required. They were unaware of the precise wording. When they attempted to impose it on me, I asked to see." Kakashi appeared at that moment. "Hey," he managed to say before he was attacked by a flock of zoos as big as his hand. "Whoa." It was evident that it was a shadow clone when he screamed as he fell into the stream and vanished in a cloud of smoke. "Call off the zoos and I'll come out, Naruto," yelled the real Kakashi. With a groan, Naruto called forth a portal to send them back, and all of the zoos instantly flew into it, with the exception of one, which fell on Naruto's shoulder. As Kakashi emerged and rhetorically questioned, "I assume Sakura told you?" Naruto shut the portal. "Yes," said Naruto, scowling at his sensei, "you're lucky I can't summon Bahamut." "Please don't sick him on me when you can," said Kakashi, who had gone pale and was on his knees. "Who is Bahamut? What is that peculiar bird?" Sakura asked, warily glancing at the zoo as though it might attack her. Naruto caressed the dragon's neck and explained, "Bahamut is a dragon summon that has existed since the time of the four tribes. And this little creature is a zoo. ZU is the correct spelling of that. He is a tamed miasma monster that humans can use." "From miasma, a monster?" Sakura asked, eyes wide. "How? The number of spots with miasma streams is in the single digits, and none of them produce zoos or other harmful creatures. Zoos can live away from miasma, as can some subspecies of behemoths, which can also be tamed." "How are you aware of that?" Sasuke inquired. "I found a few books with information on monsters." Getting the genin's attention, Kakashi said, "Anyway, I'm going to be training you harder this month. We were fortunate on our last mission, but we might not be the same next time. Thus, get ready for hell." His eyes glinted evilly, leaving his students to wonder what lay ahead. It had been 2 weeks since Kakashi started training his genin to the ground. They learned a lot, but were sore after every training session. Naruto had even collapsed during the first one when he dispelled 60 of his 70 clones at the same time after they learned the 3 wind jutsus Kakashi set them to learn, which caused the remaining 10 to dispel in the middle of chakra control exercises. Kakashi then ordered him to use only 10 clones to train, since he didn't want his student to kill himself from memory overload. Sasuke had increased his repertoire of fire jutsu and even learned a few lightning jutsu, as well as improving his chakra control and capacity. Sakura had the worst time, as she was physically the weakest of the team. Her stamina and chakra capacity improved quickly to the point where she could walk up and down the trees in the training grounds 3 times without resting compared to Naruto's new 8 times and Sasuke's 5 times. She also learned a few water and earth jutsu, as well as working on the medical jutsu scrolls Naruto had lent her. After every session, the team was too exhausted to do anything else besides go home and rest, then do 3 missions the next day to make their mission quota. Luckily for Naruto and Hinata, Kakashi had given his team a day off on Friday. They talked about their kiss and decided to wait to see where their relationship would go. Aside from one incident at Ichiraku's with a drunk villager, the date went well, but Naruto was still unsure of how he felt, while Hinata fell even more in love with him. Naruto asked her out again on Wednesday because they were both free that day, and she accepted the bouquet of tulips, white roses, and purple lilacs. They walked around town and chatted, each wanting to learn more about the other. At the moment, they were sitting on a bench in the park, discussing how they were doing with their teams and their completed missions. "Oh my goodness, I had no idea Kakashi. Sensei was such a slave driver. After completing his explanation of the new training schedule for his team, Naruto grumbled. Hinata was chuckling. He probably doesn't want anything bad happening again, like your C rank T turned A rank M mission. After scowling, Naruto grinned and said, "You're probably correct. Yes, exactly. How has your training gone, then?" Hinata surprised everyone by saying, "It's going well," after stuttering less than before. Kurenai. Sensei is teaching us genjutsu and has instructed us to learn whatever jutsu we want to learn on our own time, Hinata said. What do you hope to discover? Hold on, let me guess. Medical jutsu? Naruto inquired. Yes, but it has been difficult to try to learn, because the clan elders are trying to force me into an arrange marriage with a duke of our country, Hinata said with a tear in her eye. Is it that bad, Hinata-chan? Asked Naruto after noticing. You can tell me. Hinata fought back the tears that threatened to spill out as she looked around and said, Not H. Here, C. Can we go somewhere quieter? Naruto nodded and said, sure. He got up, took her hand, and guided her to an empty training field. Hinata-chan, are the elders really that horrible? Tears started falling from Hinata's eyes as she explained, crying into Naruto's shirt, They're insistent that I am. Marry this Duke that is older than M.My father, B. But I don't want to. They think I am weakening the bloodline, because I inherited my .My mother's personality. They say that I am a stain on the CL clan's name and that they want me to marry him in order to restore the CL clan's honor. But that's N. Not WH. Why I don't want to marry that Duke, I'm already in love with you, I promise. I don't want to leave you, I don't. As he stood there, thinking about how he felt about her, Naruto hugged her and said, I don't think I love her yet, but I'll be damned if I let them take her from me. I won't let them. I don't want to lose her. He was incensed that the elders of her clan had said those things to her and that they were attempting to marry her off to a man older than her father. Takeshi remarked, slow down there, lover boy. She doesn't know about me or the others here. If you want to be with her, you can't have any secrets between you two. He's right, Naruto, Althea said, for you to make that marriage contract Hiyashi mentioned and to tell her about your father, in addition to telling her about us. Is that what you want? After giving it some serious thought, Naruto closed his eyes and decided that he didn't want to lose her. He would be devastated if she left Konoha and him. Naruto stroked her hair and said, Hinata. Please, calm down. There is a way out of this, but I have to tell you a few things first. After a few minutes, Hinata's sobs stopped and she turned to face Naruto. What are they? What did you mean when you said, there is a way out? The first two things are S-class secrets punishable by death if anyone but myself and the Hokage tell anyone, Naruto said, letting out a sigh and sitting against a tree with Hinata in his lap, causing them both to blush. Please don't tell anyone unless I specifically give you permission to do so. Hinata said, oh, okay, but why are you exempt from these laws? Because the laws take me into account, Naruto remarked. Remember that the Kyuubi was killed by the fourth Hokage? That was a lie, Hinata said, nodding. Under the correct conditions, humans can kill some demons, but they cannot kill a Biju. The fourth's actions involved sealing the Kyuubi into me, a newborn who was not even an hour old. Hinata's eyes began to well up with tears once more. Oh, Naruto-kun. I'm so sorry, she said, giving him a hug. For what do you apologize? Naruto gave her a hug in return and remarked, it wasn't your fault. I apologize for not being there for you earlier, Hinata clarified, adding, I don't give a shit that you have a Biju sealed in you. I still adore you, and you are still N Naruto. She still loves me, even though I have a demon in my gut? Naruto thought, his heart thumping against his chest. Takeshi said, I called it. I knew she was good for you. The rest of us did too, Lael remarked, rolling his eyes. Althea reprimanded her husband and Takeshi, saying, not now, you two. Let Naruto think. She then pushed away all external views from the four in her descendant's mind. The thought of losing her even more now was painful, so Naruto tightened his hold on the girl in his lap and whispered. Thank you, Hinata. in her ear a few times, not realizing the suffix change. N. Naruto.kun. Which other S-class law did you wish to share with me? After some time, Hinata inquired. With sorrowful eyes, Naruto uttered, the other one. The other one is about who my father is. What are you saying? Have you ever questioned why I resemble the fourth? He chose a random orphan to seal the Kyuubi into, doesn't that seem odd? Hinata studied her would.be love's face for a few seconds before letting out a soft gasp that made Naruto smile. Why you mean? She said, frowning in confusion as she looked at Naruto's face. To be honest, she occasionally wondered who his father was, and it did seem odd that the fourth used an orphan to seal Kyuubi into. Indeed, Hinata. Naruto remarked, my father is the same man who sealed the Kyuubi into me. Why did he? How could he make any other parent do something that he himself didn't want to do? I do not hold him or Kyuubi or rather, Takeshi responsible. Wondering why Naruto had summoned the Kyuubi Takeshi, Hinata turned to face him. After saying, that brings us to the last two things I have to tell you, Naruto pulled her into his mindscape by bringing her forehead to his. The mindscape of Naruto. When Hinata and Naruto landed in a clearing in the forest, she asked, N. Naruto.kun, WH. Where are we? Hinata. This is my mental landscape. The girl gasped as Naruto clarified, we're in my mind. Your mindscape? How? Hinata inquired. I drew you into my mindscape. No one will overhear us here, and it would be easier to explain the final two things I need to tell you. What are they? I believe that's our cue, a voice said behind Hinata, and the girl spun around to see Lael, Althea, and Amidate standing 10 feet from her. Who? Started Hinata. Naruto said, my ancestors, and their friend Amidate, and then they sat down to tell Hinata everything. Hinata was silent throughout the entire explanation apart from a few gasps and questions she asked. When they were done, she said, this is amazing. I had no idea that this circa could occur. Althea said, nor did any of us, and Lael and Amidate nodded. But wouldn't the Kyuubi also be present? When Hinata noticed the enormous fox was gone, she inquired. Right here, young Hyuga, Takeshi said, emerging from the woods to her left in his hybrid form, wearing a red shirt and black pants, his 9 tails waving behind him, and standing around 6 feet tall with red hair and slitted red eyes. Don't worry, I won't hurt you, Takeshi said as Hinata gasped and started to move behind Naruto. I thought ninjas would know not to take rumors for granted. He sat down next to Naruto, ruffling the latter's hair. Will you stop that? Naruto said, slapping Takeshi's hand away. Naruto asked indignantly. No, I'm going to love this because I never had a little brother, Takeshi laughed as he spoke. Naruto complained. The Kyuubi, no Takeshi, referred to Naruto as his little brother, shocking Hinata. Does he really see him as a brother? She asked Naruto. In what way did Takeshi refer to you as his brother? Because I see him as one, Takeshi answered as Naruto opened his mouth. Naruto shot a glare at his older brother, then calmed down. But why did you attack Konoha if this is who you really are? Wanting to know, Hinata inquired. Because I was tricked, Takeshi said pitifully, his eyes expressing agony. My mate and kit were attacked and killed by a man who smelled of snakes and a crystal bearer with a red right arm. Demons can be killed by humans if they are under a year old or have given birth within the last week. I was out hunting when they attacked, so I wasn't there. When I got back, I saw the 2 men for a moment before they vanished with a Konoha headband, using a stealth tactic similar to that of Earth. I made an unsuccessful attempt to save them. Mirai passed away in my arms, and my kid, Genshi, was already dead. I was so furious that I disregarded logic and went to Konoha, not understanding that the locals had nothing to do with it. I attacked, and innocent lives were lost as a result of my rage. Takeshi hung his head, his fists clenched and tears welling up. I don't blame you, Hinata said, placing her hand on his shoulder. She glanced at Naruto and then back at Takeshi, who were both glancing at her with gratitude. Had I been in your shoes, I would have done the same, she said. Whoever killed your mate and kid is to blame, and we will find them. Definitely, Naruto replied with a nod. I already said that I'd help you, Takeshi, and I don't go back on my word. Thank you, Takeshi said with a smile. Then he faded, clearly wanting to spend some time alone. You too. Time to go, Hinata. Naruto said as they both faded out, and he got to his feet as everything began to fade. Actual world after a start, Naruto and Hinata looked into each other's eyes and simultaneously grinned. Whispering, thank you, Naruto.kun, for trusting me, Hinata gave him a hug. Naruto whispered back, no, thank you, Hina. Hime, for staying, as he leaned in to give her another hug. Their lips locked, and they closed their eyes, relishing the moment. They withdrew after a few seconds, grinning at one another despite their blushes. Hinata said, "N. Naruto-kun, I don't want to lose you." To which Naruto replied, "Same here, Hinata. Hime, same here." "How can you help, though?" Hinata started to say, but Naruto put a finger to her lips and stopped her. "Don't worry, Hinata. Hime," Naruto explained. "You won't lose me, I promise. There is nothing anyone can do to help you get out of being with me. Let's go now." Naruto took Hinata's hand, made a clone that took off silently, and the two began to walk, though only Naruto knew where they were going. 30 minutes later, the two were standing in front of the Hokage tower, and although Hinata was perplexed, Naruto simply said, "Don't worry. I'll give you an explanation shortly." When the two entered the tower, they discovered the clerk in front of the Hokage's office filing paperwork. She looked up and said, "I'm sorry, but Lord Hokage isn't in right now." The clerk was glaring at Naruto, and they could all hear the Hokage complaining about his paperwork, so it was clear that she was lying. "Really?" asked Naruto, raising an eyebrow. "Who is in his office, then? I believe that when he wasn't there, nobody could enter his office." The clerk gave him a more intense glare, but Hiyashi Hyuga entered before she could speak. Hiyashi looked at the clerk and said, "If you try to stop anyone from seeing Lord Hokage again when they have an appointment, you could find yourself behind bars." "Oh, I thought I'd find you here, Naruto," he said, nodding at him and giving Hinata a slight smile that further perplexed the girl. "You get it." Hiyashi led his daughter and her soon-to-be fiancé copyright enter first, then shut the office door behind them after the clerk nodded and let them continue. With a sigh of relief, the Hokage raised his head from his papers and said, "I take it you made up your mind, Naruto?" "I have, on both subjects," Naruto said, grinning as he and the other two sat down. "For now, I'll just take one." Hiruzen nodded and grinned, took out a piece of paper, wrote something on it, and gave it to Naruto, who signed it before giving it back to the Hokage, who filed and stamped it. Hinata gazed at the three, completely perplexed, and Hiruzen saw, "Why didn't you tell her?" Embarrassed, Naruto scratched the back of his head and said, "I kinda wanted to surprise her." "All right," sighed Hiruzen. "Let's bring Hinata up to speed," he said, and then he described the CRA meeting, which made Hinata frown because she might have to tell. Hiyashi then went on to describe the marriage contract he wanted to draft for the two genin, which caused Hinata to faint and blush profusely. Naruto said, "I knew that would happen," as he prevented her from toppling over in her chair. "Yes, well. Are you sure about taking only one wife?" Hiruzen laughed. "Do you recall what we talked about?" "Yes." Naruto nodded. Hiyashi nodded, relieved to be leaving his daughter in Naruto's care. "I don't want to hurt her," Naruto declared. "She's been harmed enough by your elders." "That's absolutely true," Hiyashi said, nodding. "I'll make sure you can't have children, at least not for a while, unless you treat her well." The two adult men laughed as Naruto winced and crossed his legs. "Don't worry, I won't. However, it might be wise for her to live with me. When the Hyuga elders learn, they will be furious." "I think that would be a good course of action," Hiyashi said, scowling before nodding. "They can't easily harm her that way. So, should we draft the agreement?" When Hiruzen asked, both of them nodded. Hinata then woke up and assisted with the contract, which was completed and signed by everyone in the room in a matter of hours. Hiruzen then stamped the document, making it official, and placed it in a secret vault for protection. Hiyashi said, "Hinata, let's go home." Hinata turned to face Naruto, who grinned and reassured her. Naruto blushed as he left the office and went home to clear out one of the unused bedrooms for Hinata to sleep in. "You'll see me soon enough," Hinata said, nodding and kissing him on the cheek. In the meantime, Hinata and her father were kept back. He told them the address, and Hiyashi's eyes widened. "Yes, Hiyashi, that is exactly what it means," Hiruzen said before Hiyashi could ask. "Hiyashi, Hinata, 1 minute," Hiruzen said, closing the door Naruto had just left and turning to face his leader. "Naruto's place of residence has changed, so you will have to be informed of where to go." To get their attention, Hinata said, Naruto already told me about his tenant and his parentage. You need not conceal it from me." "I'm glad you're not like most of the village," Hiyashi said, placing his hand on his daughter's shoulder as he and Hiruzen grinned at her. When Hinata turned to face her proud father, she said, Thank you, father. Leave now." Hinata gave her father a strange look before following him out, saying, "I don't want to keep your fiancé waiting." Hiyashi gave the clerk a final glare, but she didn't look at him for fear of upsetting him. Hinata followed her father out, wondering what he meant, and she had a feeling it would change her life even more. Oh, how right she was. The doorbell rang, and Naruto looked through the window to see who it was. His eyes widened as he whispered, "How the hell did they follow me?" Naruto entered his house and made 14 clones, 3 of whom went to the library to find some scrolls on medical jutsu, while the others and the original started to move to a different bedroom. His teammates were standing outside his gate, stunned and staring at the building they witnessed Naruto enter. Naruto moaned, made another clone, told the ones inside to check the bedrooms, and then left his house, approached the gate, and said to his stunned teammates, "How in the hell did you follow me?" "We simply watched you," Sasuke remarked. "How in the world did you gain entry to the Fourth's property? If you don't leave as soon as possible, Anbu will pursue you for trespassing." Naruto said, "They can't do anything," felt a clone dispel, and acquired its memories. "Damn it," he hissed, and opened the gate, saying, "Enter the house. Later, I will explain. Oh, and you have to pay for a replacement if you break it." Sakura and Sasuke exchanged confused glances before running to the house and entering it as Hinata and Hiyashi turned the corner. Hinata was carrying 2 suitcases, while Hiyashi was carrying a third. Naruto rubbed his temples and said to a friend, "Troublesome." A few blocks away, the friend sneezed violently and muttered the same thing. At that moment, both Hinata and Hiyashi approached his gates with somewhat bewildered looks. "Take care of her, Naruto," Hiyashi said, nodding to Naruto. "What about your guests?" "I really didn't want to explain things to them yet," Naruto sighed. "All I can hope is that they comprehend." "I understand," Hiyashi said, nodding. "However, you don't have to tell them everything." "I wasn't planning to." Naruto.kun, could you open the gates?" Hinata asked. "I'd like to settle down as quickly as possible." Hinata entered, and Naruto made a clone to carry the suitcases she was carrying while he took Hiyashi's. Naruto nodded and reopened the gates. "Naruto and Hinata, take care of one another," Hiyashi said, "and don't worry, I'll keep the elders away from you," before vanishing in a wind of leaves. Naruto shut the gates once more and accompanied Hinata to the door, which he opened and declared, "Ladies first." After giggling, Hinata went inside to find Sakura and Sasuke staring at her, perplexed, and Naruto following her in with her bags, which only made them more perplexed. "What is happening, Naruto? Why are you here? Why is Hinata here, and why is she carrying suitcases?" Sasuke inquired. The clones in the rest of the house were banished by Naruto, who sighed and said, "I'll explain soon, but first let me find Hinata a room." After he was out of sight of his teammates, he departed with Hinata and the clone in tow. "What did you mean, find me a room?" Naruto and his clone turned to face her, both of them blushing severely. "I thought we would share one," she said. Hinata. Are you certain about that? Technically, we're only engaged," inquired Naruto. "All right. I just want to sleep in the same bed," Hinata said, putting her arms around the real Naruto. "That's all." Naruto.kun, please? She gave him a puppy.eye look, and Naruto tried to turn away and refuse, but he was unable to do so. "All right, Hinata." He sighed, only to go to sleep. "Congratulations." With a hug, Hinata said, "Thank you, Naruto.kun." With a laugh, Naruto muttered, "Man, I'm whipped." Hinata returned the whisper, "Yes, but I'll make it up to you," and then she kissed him. After giving her a kiss in return, Naruto teased, "I wonder how you'll do that," and then he led her to his room, saying, "Here we are," as he opened the door to the second floor master bedroom, which left Hinata speechless at its size. Hinata whispered, "Wow," as she surveyed the room. The bed was a king size, so they could grow into it. It was set in a lovely carved wood bed frame, with its head against the far wall. 2 equally lovely wooden nightstands, one on the left with a mirror, and 2 equally lovely wooden dressers on either side of the bed. A couch was on the right wall, with a bookcase to its right. On the left wall was a large window that reached from the floor to the ceiling, providing a clear view of the backyard garden. On the wall that the door was in, was another door at the opposite end, leading to the rather large bathroom. As he and his clone positioned Hinata's suitcases next to the nearest dresser, Naruto remarked, "I reacted the same. This will be your dresser and nightstand," he said, pointing to the furniture. "The bathroom is through that door." He indicated the other door. And trust me, it even has a jacuzzi." Hinata opened the bathroom door after her fiancé threw out his clone, and sure enough, there was one. She blushed profusely and teased, "Well, I guess it's AG. Good thing I brought my swimsuit." The image of Hinata in a swimsuit made Naruto flush, but he shook his head to get rid of it, and Hinata winked at him and giggled at his response. H. Hinata. M perhaps later. We still need to give Sakura and Sasuke explanations. I just hope they understand, Hinata said, letting out a sigh as she approached him. The only option available to us was to move in together. Me, too, Naruto said, putting his arms around her and planting a kiss on her lips. Let's go now. When they returned downstairs, Sakura and Sasuke were examining the different objects in the living room when Naruto said, "Hey," which caught their attention. "All right, now that you two have finished, could you kindly clarify the situation?" Sakura, irritated at having to wait, inquired. When Naruto finished explaining why he and Hinata were living there, it took more than an hour, and Sakura and Sasuke just sat there in shock, their mouths slightly open as he said, "All right, sit down," pointing to one of the couches, which his teammates were sitting on while he and Hinata were sitting on the one facing them. "Why? You're the son of Kushina Uzumaki and the fourth Hokage? The red whirlpool and the yellow flash? And they were wed?" Sakura inquired. "Yes. Because they didn't want their enemies to use one another as a means of retaliation, my parents kept their marriage a secret. The reason you and Hinata are engaged here is because her clan elders were attempting to marry her off to a duke older than her father." "Makes sense," Sasuke said, frowning thoughtfully. "What are those elderly people contemplating?" Sakura remarked, "Perhaps they were taking bribes from him." Hinata said, "Maybe, but she didn't want to." She shuddered, and Naruto put his arm around her. "They even invited him over once, and he couldn't keep his eyes off me." Hinata. Don't worry, I'll keep him away from you," he declared. Hinata gave him a smile. "Now, you have to explain something," Naruto said, turning to face his teammates. "You were following me, but why?" Sakura said, "I just wanted to return these," and took out the medical scrolls he had lent her, giving them to him. "I wanted to know if you had any scrolls on fire and lightning jutsu," Sasuke replied. Naruto sighed and said, "Follow me," getting up and walking to the library while the others followed. He arrived at the library and opened the door. Sasuke whispered, "Holy," as he heard the girls gasp, and they went into the library to take in their surroundings. Sakura exclaimed, "Whoa, this is a lot of jutsu. Did the house come with them?" "They did," Naruto remarked, putting the medical scrolls back where they belonged. "Mom and Dad had so many books and scrolls that they wanted the library to be this large." He turned to Sasuke, who had started taking the full fire jutsu section right away, and said, "You can borrow some, Buddha. Not an entire section. Return them to their proper locations, Sasuke." Sasuke scowled and grudgingly returned most of the jutsu to their proper locations, attempting to preserve the A rank techniques, but Naruto repositioned them and forced him to take some D and C ranks he was unfamiliar with. "Oh come on, Naruto. Let me at least." Sasuke objected immaturely. Naruto said, "I'll let you borrow them, but you have to wait until you have enough chakra," Sasuke, saying, "You don't have enough chakra." Sasuke sighed. He didn't want to upset his friend, but he also didn't want to lose this treasure trove. As she studied the books, Sakura grinned at the arguments of her teammates. Curious, she took out one of the books and opened it, frowning as she read the spells, their theories, and their explanations. "Naruto? Magica, what does this book mean?" she inquired. "Oh, it explains what people used before chakra was discovered," Naruto said, turning away after glancing at the book for a moment. "There are two main distinctions between jutsu and magic, but both utilize the same internal energies. The energies do not combine in the same manner when we use magic, and when they are fully depleted, they return to us in a matter of minutes." As he examined the spells with Sakura, Sasuke remarked, "Cool, how long does it take to learn magic?" For magicites, however, that restriction is not applicable. Years or months, depending on the spell, unless you have an affinity for it, Naruto stated. To cast the desired spell, simply direct your energy into the magicite. However, those are magicians in the military. Economic magicite is used to power automobiles and illuminate spaces. Regretfully, I haven't had a chance to learn how to get to the Yuke Sky City, the Yuke world's capital, and all magicites are extremely rare these days. However, there might be some magicians present. How do you know that the capital of the Yuke is still standing? Sakura raised an eyebrow in question. Good point, said Naruto, scowling. However, I should be able to figure out a way to check. He ran into a vase on a pedestal, snatched it up before it fell, and saw that the panel behind it appeared strange. What did you say about us not causing any damage? Sakura needled her friend, but Naruto ignored her as he put the vase on a table, then pulled the panel that was behind it off. Sakura frowned. Naruto? As everyone shifted to see what Naruto was observing, they noticed a complex seal on a panel and said, "Look, it's a blood seal." How do you know? Sasuke frowned as he asked. Books about seals can be found here. The bookcase to everyone's left moved forward, then away from them, and a staircase was behind it, going down. I'll go first. Since it was his home, no one objected, and they descended the staircase, but they stopped as the bookcase hiding it slid back into place. This one is for family use. Naruto bit his thumb and smeared the blood on the seal. Oh no! How do we escape? Sakura fretted, before the area around the staircase lit up. Naruto looked to the source and gasped. The others followed his gaze and gasped as well. In a light socket was not a light bulb, as they expected, but an orange sphere lighting the staircase. Is that an economic magicite? Naruto declared, gazing excitedly down the stairs. Come on! He began descending once more, sliding down the rail this time with the help of his gravity abilities. Hold on. Before using his chakra in the same way, Sasuke uttered those words. The girls simply exchanged glances, both obviously thinking, boys. Sakura shrugged and followed the boy's example, while Hinata simply sighed and followed suit. After the four swiftly slid down the rail, Naruto flipped, used his gravity powers to stop his momentum and land safely, and then did the same for his friends as they entered. When Hinata entered, he used his powers to stop her momentum and pull her into a quick kiss, causing her to turn a deep crimson and reluctantly pull away, embarrassed by the public display of affection. Naruto.kun. Definitely not in front of your teammates. Despite holding her hand, Naruto simply laughed and let her go. Whoa, Sakura exclaimed, surveying her surroundings. The others followed suit, their mouths dropping as they exclaimed, wow. Both military and economic magicites were kept on shelves around the 50 feet. By 0.50 feet room, the military section had at least 4 of each type of spell, followed by rank within that type: fire, blizzard, thunder, arrow, water, earth spells, gravity, zero gravity, stop, cure and Isuna, status spells, holy spells, and dark spells, with 1 to 4 white crystals in each military magicite to indicate rank. The economic section simply had its own magicite. Naruto asked in his mind, whoa, Amidate Lion, are most of the spells here? Most. I do not see a mega flare, nor a few dark and holy based spells. It is amazing your father had all these. Perhaps your family has collected them over the years, Amidate Lion said after examining them closely. As he picked up one of his 10 red Fira magicites, Naruto said, that would explain it. Sasuke, here. He threw the magicite to the Uchiha, who got it. You can have that Fira. Just wait until I figure out how to make more before you go flaunting it. What? Sasuke's eyes widened. Is this all you're going to give me? Why? I just feel like it, Naruto said, grabbing one of his 10 blue Blizzara and yellow Thundara magicites and throwing them to him. Here's a Thundara and a Blizzara, he said. Also, you might need them. Here, girls, he said, grabbing 2 of his 10 green Kira magicites and throwing one to Sakura and one to Hinata. I've read that those are Kira magicites. Kira. Sakura looked at the magicite and asked. The second rank of healing spells, Naruto clarified, Cure, followed by Kira, Kuraga, and Kuraja in the usual order. He picked up 2 of the 20 clear green Isuna and threw them to the girls as well, saying, this is an Isuna. Most spells have the same pattern. They are not as effective as medical jutsu, but they are primarily used to treat poison or heal status effects. What is the role of Kira? Sakura inquired. Heals injuries, said Naruto, holding a light brown quake in the sky, blue aurora in his pocket. Fire shoots a homing fireball, blizzard forms ice crystals above your target's head and drops them, thunder makes a bolt of lightning hit your target, though it will only hurt him or her, arrow throws your target into the air, water surrounds your target with crushing water, earth spells use the earth to attack, gravity and zero gravity do their namesakes, stop freezes you in place for a set period of time, and status. Inflicting spells do their namesakes as well. Did you not read that book upstairs earlier? Sasuke inquired. Yep, said Naruto, taking one of the 2 Ultima spells and putting it in his pocket after considering it. Are you certain that we can have these? Sakura inquired as Naruto gave her a Wadara and a Quake. Yes, said Naruto. He gave Hinata a Wadara and a Thundara, saying, I'm giving you ones I have at least 10 of. Sasuke's eyes widened as he realized the time, first the economic, then the staircase, and finally his watch. Whoa, it's 7:30, he said. We must have lost our sense of time. Sakura quickly pocketed her magicite and made her way to the staircase, her eyes widening as she said, oh no, I'm going to be late for dinner. The others simply exchanged glances before pocketing their magicite and making their way upward, where they discovered a distressed Sakura examining a blood seal. Naruto bit his thumb and swiped the seal. causing the bookshelf concealing the staircase to move. "Calm down, Sakura," he said. "I'm sure your parents won't be too mad at you." Sakura replied, "Yeah, but I hate being late for dinner. Well, I have to leave. I'll see you tomorrow." She hurried outside without realizing that Naruto needed to open the gate, and he made a clone to let her and Sasuke out while the Uchiha left after saying, "Goodbye," and giving a brief thank you. The clone dispersed after it had completed its task. With Naruto following closely behind, Hinata declared, "I'll start cooking dinner." Naruto kissed her, and she blushed and grinned at him. "I'm sure I'm going to love whatever you make," he said. Naruto thought he was fortunate to have someone like his fiancé copyrightee as they strolled together. Naruto yawned as he awoke from his sleep. He noticed that Hinata had moved on to him while she was sleeping when he felt pressure on his chest. The sight of his fiancé copyrightee's sleeping form made him smile. Then he shook her awake and said softly, "Haim, it's time to wake up." With a moan, Hinata entered the waking world alongside Naruto. Sleepily, she looked up at him and said, "Do I have to? I'm comfortable." She put her head back down, but Naruto raised it again before planting a kiss on her lips. She began kissing him back as soon as she woke up. "Are you awake now?" he asked with a slight smirk as he withdrew. Playfully hitting him, Hinata said, "Maybe." She put her arms around his neck and kissed him once more. With a smile on his face, Naruto returned her kiss before stepping back and stating, "We really should get up. We do have to meet our teams after all." With a sigh, Hinata stood up and showed Naruto her still developing body before putting her arms up timidly in front of her chest. After getting a change of clothes from her dresser, she went to the bathroom to take a shower. After making a shadow clone to prepare some bacon and eggs, Naruto also got up, took off his clothes, and went to another bathroom. Naruto's clone prepared the breakfast, which Hinata and Naruto ate in the kitchen a short while later. As she ate, Hinata inquired, "Did Lady Althea teach you how to cook, Naruto-kun?" "Yeah, she did," answered Naruto. He looked at the time. "We should head to our team's meeting spots in about 15 minutes. You have your magicite in your pack?" Hinata showed him the two pouches at the back of her waist and said, "I have them in a separate one, and I have it on me." "That's good. Don't use them unless it's necessary. I have no doubt that people will start harassing me about them when word gets out that I have a lot of magicite." After giggling, Hinata drank some orange juice. They would be wasting their time, though. Naruto laughed. "Yeah, they would be. Maybe I could start selling them when I learn how to make them, depending on how it's done." Hinata remarked, "Maybe, but I don't think making them is easy." She took out her cura and examined it before recalling something. "Naruto? I remember seeing some other magicite with more than 4 of these crystals in them. Don't the crystals signify the spell's rank?" "Most of them," Naruto remarked, recalling what he had read and heard from Amidate Lion. "Some magicites, like some you saw in the basement, have more than 4 crystals. Those are unique spells, different from the other spells of the same type. I read that the magicite for Mega Flare, an extremely powerful fire-based spell, has 5 crystals. Ultima, the most powerful light spell, has 6. He took out the Ultima magicite and displayed it to the girl. From Hinata's perspective, the 6 crystals were indeed arranged in a hexagon. "What's the highest amount of crystals a magicite can have?" 6, said Naruto. "There are some magicite without crystals, but those are for summons like Bahamut, Ifrit, and Shiva." Confused, Hinata questioned, "Summons? Like an animal summoning contract? What kinds of creatures are they?" "Indeed, summon magicites and summon contracts are comparable. Numerous animals are summoned. A dragon is Bahamut. Some, such as Shiva and Ifrit, resemble humans. Ifrit is a man, and Shiva is a woman. Shiva is a blizzard, Ifrit is a fire element, and Bahamut is elementless. According to what I understand, all summons are sentient beings that are able to communicate with their summoner. The summon must instruct you, but you can learn how to call them without the magicite's help. Have you previously called forth any of them?" "No, I have a way to go with Amidate Lion's summoning powers before I can summon any of them," Naruto replied with a scowl. "Oh." Hinata, who wanted to answer the summons, appeared dejected. Observing the time, Naruto said, "We ought to prepare. It's almost time to leave." He got up, put his cup and empty plate in the dishwasher, and went to the bathroom to brush his teeth. Hinata got up and followed him. After they parted ways with each other and left the Namikaze estate, Naruto kissed Hinata and said, "See you later, Haim." "See you," Hinata said, flushed. "Take caution." Before turning a corner, Naruto waved goodbye and walked away, saying, "You too." He waved, and Hinata returned the wave before grinning and heading to the meeting location for her team. After 10 minutes, Naruto said, "Morning, Sakura, Sasuke, as he arrived at the location where his team was meeting. His teammates said, "Morning," and Sakura said, "So am I off the hook?" With a thoughtful frown, Naruto said, "I'll think about it." "I'm really sorry about following you on your date, and to your house," she said with honesty. "Just don't do it again," Naruto said, adding, "You can return the scrolls one lent you at the next meeting if you want to. Okay?" His teammates nodded, and Sakura said, "Does Kakashi-sensei know about your parents?" As Kakashi materialized in a whirl of leaves. "Yeah, he does," Naruto replied. "He was the one who was holding the keys to the house, after all, as well as my dad's student." Sasuke nodded and said, "That makes sense. What do you think our missions will be today?" His presence was announced to his team by Kakashi, who glared at his students, making them wince. "We're about to find out, after you tell me how you found out about Naruto's parents," he said. "They followed me yesterday because Sakura wanted to return the medical scrolls one lent her and Sasuke wanted to see if I had any scrolls on fire and lightning jutsu," Naruto said. "They followed me all the way to my house." "You ought to have sensed them, right?" Kakashi inquired. Naruto stated, "I was too distracted," emphasizing that he didn't want to discuss it at the moment. "Excellent," sighed Kakashi. "We must now discuss this with Lord Hokage. Well, when we receive our missions, we can let him know. Let's leave." When they arrived at the Mission Acceptance Center, Team 8 was ready to submit a mission request, and the Hokage and Iruka were present. Hiruzen said, "Ah, good," as he saw Team 7 arrive. He took a mission from the B rank pile and said, "Someone has found some ruins just outside the capital," and alerted the daimyo, who in turn alerted me. Team 7, "I'm glad you arrived just now." Everyone gave him a weird look. He has asked 2 genin squads to go on a mission to protect Taiki Nakashima, an archaeologist, while he examines the ruins. He said, "I've decided to send Team 8 as well, and he specifically asked for your team, Kakashi." He threw the scroll to Kakashi, who opened it and read it. "I can assume we don't have a choice?" Kakashi sighed. "That is correct," Hiruzen said. "Professor Nakashima and the daimyo will meet you at the entrance to the ruins. Get ready appropriately. A miasma stream or other hazards might be present." Iruka turned to the Hokage and asked, "Lord Hokage, do you really think it's a good idea to send genin teams on a B rank, even if it's something like this?" Both teams nodded and then left the building. "Don't worry about them, Iruka," Hiruzen said with a smile. "Naruto in particular. They'll be alright." Iruka frowned and said, "I can't help but worry, comparing Naruto to a younger brother. I'm hoping he'll be alright." "Don't worry too much, Iruka. Naruto is more powerful than you may realize." Iruka. "Sensei is probably worried about me," Naruto thought, suppressing a sneeze outside. "This will be interesting, huh, Kurenai?" Kakashi asked, turning to face Kurenai. "It will," Kurenai nodded. "However, I'm curious as to why Lord Hideyoshi asked for genin teams." Despite his suspicion, Kakashi shrugged and said, "I'm not sure. I propose that we prepare for a minimum of 2 days. In an hour, how about we all gather at the gates?" "Yes, Kakashi, and be on time," Kurenai called as he walked away. She sighed and turned to the genin. "You heard us. Don't be late, arrive at the gates within an hour, and pack for at least 2 days. You get it?" "Yes, ma'am." After saying this, the genin scattered to prepare. Teams 7 and 8, without the senseis, were waiting at the gates 50 minutes later. Naruto had a bad feeling and had packed 2 of each 3rd-tier magicite spell and 3 of each 2nd-tier magicite spell in a chest sealed in a scroll in his bag, hoping he was just being paranoid. "How is your relationship going, Naruto and Hinata?" Kiba inquired inquisitively. Hinata blushed as Naruto gave her a hug and smiled. "Excellent. She is a wonderful girl." He gave her a cheek kiss, which made her blush even more. "I kind of regret I never noticed her before." Naruto.kun. N not in F. Front of everyone, Hinata objected. Naruto simply laughed and said, "All right, Hina. Heim, if you say so." "You're whipped, man," Kiba said, chuckling. He stopped when Naruto and Hinata sent a glare at him. "Okay, I'll shut up. However, what about her father and the Hyuga elders? If they haven't already, they will be furious when they learn." "Her father's fine with it," Naruto replied. "As for the elders, well, they just have to deal with it." "What? Hold on." Startled, Kiba uttered, "Hiyashi is cool with you two dating?" "Yeah," replied Naruto. Hinata frowned and remarked, "He doesn't mind, but he did threaten to castrate Naruto.kun if he hurts me." "That makes 2 of us, then," Kiba said, looking at Naruto, who raised an eyebrow. "Are they getting serious?" Kurenai raised an eyebrow when he saw Naruto's arms around Hinata and said, "All right, since we're all here, we can go, before he could say anything more. Please, Naruto, remove your arms from my pupil. The two teams jumped into the trees and sped off toward the capital, with Naruto complying and moving away from Hinata as they signed out and departed. Later, at the ruins entrance in front of teams 7 and 8 stood Hideyoshi Asahara, the daimyo of the Land of Fire, a 35-year-old man with green eyes and short black hair, dressed in a traditional red and blue royal kimono. A girl about the genin's age, with long brown hair that reached her waist and bright green eyes, stood to the daimyo's left, dressed in a scaled-down, female version of the daimyo's kimono. On the daimyo's right was a man in his early 20s, with dark brown trousers and boots, a light brown jacket with lots of pockets, a big bag slung over his shoulder, and light brown hair concealed by an archaeology hat and blue eyes behind oval-shaped glasses. They were surrounded by 12 warrior-clad guards, each with a spear in their hand, though some had swords strapped to their backs. "Hello, Lord Hideyoshi," Kakashi said, bowing as Kurenai and the genin followed suit. "I am Kakashi Hitaki, and my fellow shinobi are Jonin Kurenai Yuhi, and genins Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburame, Kiba Inuzuka, Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha, and Naruto Uzumaki." He pointed to each as he said their names, saying, "I hope you aren't upset about our time of arrival." The shinobi bowed in greeting, which Taiki returned, making sure nothing fell out of his bag. "And this man next to me is the archaeologist you will be protecting, Professor Taiki Nakamasha." "It is all right," the daimyo replied, nodding to Kakashi. "Let me introduce you to my daughter, Keirei." He pointed to his daughter, who grinned and nodded at the shinobi as she was handed bows. "These are some strange ruins, and Taiki believes they may be from the time of the 4 tribes." After nodding, Kakashi said, "So, these ruins are very important." "That is correct. There might be monsters and a few miasma streams down there, so we dared not go inside. Here's where you can help. As Professor Nakamasha conducts a primary survey of the ruins, you are to keep him safe." Kakashi straightened and said, "If that is all, we should begin immediately." "We understand, Lord Hideyoshi," he said, bowing once more. "Don't worry, we won't let anything bad happen to him." "Of course," Hideyoshi said, nodding. "Keirei, let's return to the city." When the guards gathered around them, Keirei turned around with her father and winked at Naruto, saying, "Of course, father. He's cute, but I will reserve any more judgments until I get to know him better, hopefully." "Did she just wink at my fiancé?" Hinata thought as she narrowed her eyes at Keirei's back. "Oh boy. I can already tell that's going to be a problem," the other shinobi thought as he saw the wink. Naruto thought, "Crap. One look and she's already flirting. I guess Lord Hideyoshi doesn't know that I won't be taking multiple wives yet. Or maybe he does, and Lady Keirei is unaware that I've already found Hina. Most likely the latter," Takeshi remarked. Unaware of the shinobi's thoughts, Taiki turned to face the ruins and said, "Well, should we start?" Taiki and the shinobi took out their flashlights only 20 feet into the stone tunnel that twisted through the ground, sloping downward, and after about 30 minutes of walking and a few hundred feet, the tunnel began to get steeper and curved slightly to the left, forcing them to go slower to avoid falling. This continued for 100 feet until the ground leveled out and everyone saw a doorway with no door about 30 feet away. The shinobi nodded and went into the ruins with Team 8 in front and Team 7 behind them, with Taiki in between them. "Hold on." Everyone stopped when Kakashi said, "Naruto, make a shadow clone to look for enemies. You also check, Hinata." Naruto nodded and followed instructions, and as Hinata activated her Byakugan, the clone went to the doorway to survey the area. After a minute, the clone dispersed, and Hinata deactivated her Byakugan with a frown, while Naruto moaned and remarked cynically, "Oh, that's just great." "What is it?" Taiki inquired. "Monsters," Hinata replied. "I couldn't identify them, as I'm not familiar with them." 3 king behemoths, 2 tonberries, a tonberry queen, and an iron giant, Naruto stated, much to the dismay of Kakashi and the Kurenai. "The big purple ones with horns and a wooden club are the king behemoths, the tonberries are the green human-sized fish half. Humans in brown coats wielding knives and lanterns. The tonberry queen is wearing a pink bow with a pink dress and has a chainsaw as well as its knife and lantern, and the iron giant is light blue with a giant cog on its back and a helmet." "Is it truly that awful?" Kiba hoped it wasn't and asked. "According to what I've read, we need to awaken the iron giant in order to kill it, and king behemoths are already difficult to defeat when they're by themselves. Both of them can withstand a lot of damage because of their extremely resilient skin. The queen is worse than the tonberries, who can blind you before stabbing you from behind," Naruto clarified, and that's not taking into account that we have to protect Professor Nakamasha. She is twice as strong and faster than normal Tonberries. With a pale face, Taiki said, should we go back? We do have a chance. Naruto sighed as he sat down to reflect. He didn't want to have to reveal his magicites, but he had no other option. I'm so happy I got these. He produced a scroll, opened it, and poured chakra into it, exposing a chest and a storage seal. Naruto, what's in that? Kiba inquired. Shino raised his eyebrows as Naruto opened the lid, causing Kiba, Kurenai, and Taiki to gasp in surprise. Magicites, Naruto declared as he gathered 2 magicites from Thundaga, Furaga, Blizzaga, and Stopga and threw one to each of the senseis. Third tier spells are those. We will require them. What are your chakra affinities, Shino and Kiba? My primary is lightning, and Kiba's is fire. But why do you ask? With a furrowed brow, Shino spoke. After grabbing 2 Fira and Thundara and giving one to Shino and one to Kiba, Naruto scowled and said, so I know which ones to lend you, before grabbing a Karaga and giving it to Taiki. I want all of them back when we're done with this mission. Okay. All the people nodded at him. Why don't you lend any magicite to Hinata and your teammates? Frowning at Naruto, Kurenai questioned, where did you get this many? Hinata, blushing slightly, pulled out her Kira, Wadara, Isuna, and Thundara magicite, and Sakura and Sasuke followed suit. We already have some, Hinata said. Naruto resealed the chest and Taiki examined his face. Where I got them is a secret I would not like to tell, but I didn't steal them, he said. When Taiki finally saw the crystal in Naruto's cheek, his eyes widened. Why does something about him seem familiar? I feel like I know his lineage, but he's a. That means he's. I can't believe it. The royal line of the Lilti kingdom is still alive. He's the heir to the throne. The leaders have to be informed of this, Taiki said. Taiki's expression caused Naruto to frown. What is it, Professor? Although they could tell he was lying, Naruto, Hinata, and the Jonin scowled as Taiki abruptly stopped talking and said, it's nothing important. All right, Kakashi said, putting the magicite in his pocket, we'll need to strike the monsters quickly and forcefully. The Tonberries and Tonberry Queen will be our first topic. Think you'll have enough time, Kurenai, to equip at least one of the king behemoths with a genjutsu so it can attack the others? Kurenai gave a nod. Take action. If necessary, we will blitzkrieg the remaining king behemoths one at a time after allowing them to attack one another until the one with the genjutsu dies. We'll awaken the Iron Giant and launch a blitzkrieg once the king behemoths have died. Was there a miasma stream, Naruto? Yes, but we have to kill all the monsters first. All right. It's best that you remain in the tunnel for the time being, Professor. I do not wish for you to suffer harm. Taiki nodded just as she was about to object. Kakashi said, let's go, and he and the other shinobi moved forward, with Taiki walking behind them, clutching something in his bag with his left hand, stopping a few feet from the door to let the shinobi deal with the monsters. When the shinobi entered the monster area, they discovered a very large room that was at least a quarter-mile long and wide, with a purple, cylindrical miasma stream floating in the middle. A Tonberry saw the shinobi and yelled, warning the other monsters of the danger. The Tonberry charged and tried to stab Hinata, but Naruto grabbed its wrist and slammed a kunai into its head, instantly killing it. The Tonberry then disappeared into a purple mist. The shinobi dispersed as a king behemoth began to lumber close, looking for the other Tonberry and Tonberry Queen. Kakashi spotted the queen but lost sight of it after he had to avoid a king behemoth's club swing. Naruto attempted to toss the Tonberry at the Tonberry Queen but was forced to stop when another king behemoth swung its club at him. He dropped the Tonberry, but the club struck the Tonberry instead of him, killing it as it flew into a wall. When the king behemoth swung at him again, Naruto thought, well, that works, too. He ducked, then leapt to his feet and slammed a fist infused with gravity into the king's jaw. The king behemoth staggered back, then grabbed him with its free hand and threw him to another, which swung its club at him. Naruto used his gravity powers to stop just outside the swing. Kurenai ensnared one of the king behemoths in a genjutsu, and one of them began lumbering toward another, its club raised, until it was close enough to swing its club at the other's head, forcing the other to attack it. When Hinata and Shino located the Tonberry Queen once more, Shino surrounded it with his insects while Hinata used Juken to disable it. Then, she grabbed her water magicite and used the spell to attack the monster, causing water to appear from all sides and begin crushing it for a few seconds, severely injuring it. Kiba then chose to use his Fira magicite, shooting a fireball at the creature, killing it. The shinobi regrouped and turned to face the two king behemoths engaged in combat, both of whom were at that time slightly wounded. Where's the third one? Please? Naruto asked before looking towards the entrance to find the last one trying to reach Taiki. The key word was trying, as its arm couldn't fit into the doorway. Figures. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Sasuke declared, I'll get its attention, before rushing away and attacking it with a fire jutsu. The fireball hit the king behemoth right in its face, and the monster turned to Sasuke, who paled and thought, oh crap. Sasuke dodged the club swing from the angry monster, then flew through hand signs and said, fire style, flame wall jutsu. He then blew in the direction of the ground, creating a wall of fire between himself and his opponent, while Kakashi lifted his headband and began charging a lightning blade. To Sasuke's horror, the king behemoth easily stepped through the wall of fire, and Kakashi then charged the creature, stabbing it in the eye, killing it. The creature then dissipated as the king behemoth under the genjutsu was struck in the head, killing it as well. As Naruto said, this is the greatest of light spells. A white sphere of energy materialized in front of the king behemoth's face before he could take more than 2 steps. Naruto then took out the Ultima Magicite and began charging it. Ultima. The shinobi twisted in midair and landed upright, but Naruto fell to his knees, panting from using an overpowered Ultima spell. The sphere exploded, killing the monster and sending everyone flying 30 feet back. How are you, Naruto-kun? As she assisted him in standing up, Hinata inquired. Naruto stumbled a little and said, I think I just overpowered Ultima a bit. I'll be fine, he said. That Ultima you cast had twice as much power as it should have had. Do you have any idea what that can do to someone? Amidalian asked in his mind, visibly upset with Naruto. No. You will put that Magicite back when you return to the village until I believe you are ready to use it, Amidalian commanded, adding that, it can kill you if you do that again right now. That was too strong, Naruto thought. I'm not arguing. He looked up and remarked, I can wake up the Iron Giant, but I'll have to rest for a few seconds after that. Without giving anyone a chance to protest, he turned the cog on the Iron Giant's back, causing it to awaken. You'll have to kill it without me. The Iron Giant roared as it picked up the sword next to it and advanced on the shinobi, who moved out of the way. Hinata landed at the entrance and set Naruto down, then reluctantly jumped back into the fight after Naruto said he would be okay. The Iron Giant swung its sword at Kiba, who ducked, and the other shinobi struck with their best jutsu at the same time, severely hurting it but also infuriating it. It roared again, this time swinging its sword in a full circle, almost hitting Sakura, who thought, that was way too close. Kakashi then launched a dragon made of fire at the monster, killing it. Without any delay, Hinata hurried back to Naruto and asked, are you feeling better? As she assisted him in standing, she inquired. Naruto declared, I haven't fully recovered yet, but I'll be fine, as his strength came back. I hope so, Taiki said, looking sideways at Naruto, because that was just stupid, overpowering that Ultima spell. I don't want anyone to kill themselves in this place. How about we move forward? Kakashi inquired, although he was also concerned about Naruto. Everyone said, sure, and Naruto, accompanied by Hinata, walked over to the miasma stream and used his powers to close it. A red crystal-shaped object that resembled a heart fell from the stream. What is that? Kiba approached it and asked, but Naruto used his abilities to pull it over. This is a fragment of myrrh, Taiki exclaimed. They are meant to strengthen a person, but I don't know much about them because there isn't much information available. However, I have no idea how it's done. It should go to the one who is physically weakest, in my opinion. You're not interested in studying it? Sakura inquired, fearing that he might be losing out on a great chance. I'm an archaeologist, not a scientist, Taiki shook his head, adding, and I don't know anyone who could study them effectively. I think Sakura should get it, Naruto stated. Why Sakura? Kiba inquired, perplexed that he hadn't stated that Hinata ought to receive it. Well, no offense to Sakura, but physically, she is the weakest ninja here. Are you certain? Sakura questioned, glancing at the piece of myrrh. Naruto said, positive, and waved it in her direction. She hesitated a second, then reached for it, and the piece instantly absorbed itself into her, causing Sakura to jerk back slightly and glance at her hands. Taiki said, so that's how it's done, and then he saw something on the wall across from the entrance. Whoa, he said, approaching it. The shinobi gasped as he saw the massive mural on the wall, 2 crystals on the left side that resembled an inverse triangle and the Lilti tribe symbol, with Lael to their right, facing away from them. He didn't look the same, though, with more crystal on his face and eyes that seemed to glow bright blue, along with crystal parts of his body and clothing, including his hands, which were made entirely of crystal, the sleeves of his coat, which were mostly made of crystal, the clasp of his jacket, and the crystals that formed lines down his pants to the board that encased his right foot, giving the impression that he was surfing. A crystal floated next to the one on his cheek, with a wing of energy emanating from it. Parts of the Lilte's body, particularly his right arm from the elbow down, were also crystal, and he appeared to be standing on a giant, robotic-like head with a red crystal extending from the forehead, with him attached to the crystal. He had glowing red eyes, his body was encased in red crystal from the waist down, and his hair was braided into 3 ponytails beginning at the same spot on his head. With Naruto's eyes on the mural, Lael remarked, "My first fight in hyper mode." Hyper mode? Asked Naruto in his mind. In hyper mode, Lael explained. A bearer can only stay in hyper mode for 5 minutes when they first start, and when they leave hyper mode, they are extremely exhausted. Hyper mode is the state where a crystal bearer has more of his or her body become crystal, and possesses more power than ever before. However, the only way to enter hyper mode the first time is to have a crystal reactor near them and pour a lot of power into his or her crystal, or for the bearer to feel intense emotion, like anger and rage. For me, it was both. What's the theme of this mural? Sakura asked, then noticed a plaque below with 2 people etched into the stone, one on each side. 2 more people were etched into the stone below the plaque. Look, she said, pointing to them. Taiki approached the writing on the wall and said, "This writing. It's an incredibly ancient language, from the time of the 4 tribes. Are you able to read it?" Shino inquired. Yes. The greatest crystal bearer, Lael Sol Alphateria, was honored with this mural. He was the High Commander of the Royal Army and the husband of Queen Althea Sol Alphateria, the 3rd ruler of the Lilte Kingdom. He bravely defended tribal unity, even restoring the Yuke's tribal crystal and appearing to turn into a criminal. However, Jegren, the former High Commander, put him on fugitive status after attempting to kill him several times out of fear of his abilities. Jegren ordered his execution after falsely accusing him of stealing one of the 3 crystal idols. After Lael's innocence was established by his friends Kais and Bell, shown below, and 2 Selkies, Jegren was exposed as a crystal bearer who possessed the ability to crystallize humans, animals, and monsters. Additionally, Jegren had killed the current Lilte Kingdom king by turning him into crystal. The purpose of this mural is to honor Lael's valor and honor in defending the kingdom of Lilte, as well as the valor of his wife and friends. When Jegren tried to crystallize Lael, Lion, the Yuke on the left who had started the process of restoring his tribal crystal, gave his life to save him by deflecting the traitor's blow toward himself. Unaware that she was buying time for the Yukes to cast spells to counter the Doomsday spell, Althea used her own abilities as a crystal bearer to protect the Lilte crystal from a Doomsday spell cast by the Yukes during the Great War 1,000 years prior while the Yuke crystal was being restored. Lion took precautions to keep the Doomsday spell from destroying the Lilte crystal because it knew it would reactivate once the Yuke crystal was restored. This plaque is meant to serve as a reminder to everyone who sees it to honor those who bravely defended the planet. May their examples serve as a guide for others. Is that its purpose? To remind others of the actions of some individuals in the past? Kiba snorted after asking incredulously, "Dude, this was a waste of a woe." He didn't finish his statement as Naruto performed a leg sweep and knocked Kiba down, then grabbed him by the throat, his eyes full of rage. "Naruto, what?" "Pay close attention, Kiba. I won't tolerate you making fun of them. You would be foolish to claim that this was a waste of time. To save others, they risked their lives, so one even gave his life. You understand? Don't you dare insult them?" Naruto almost screamed at him. As he said, "Gee, got it," Kiba began to perspire at the icy stare in Naruto's eyes and felt himself trembling. "I'm sorry." After controlling his temper, Naruto released Kiba and saw that everyone else was staring at him. "What?" Everyone but Taiki said, "Nothing," acknowledging that Naruto was correct to reprimand Kiba, despite the fact that he was a little harsh. "You know, there is something about this that makes me think you have some connection to Lael, Naruto," Taiki said, turning her gaze from Naruto to the Lael on the mural. "What might that be?" On the inside, Naruto was cautious, but he asked casually. "The fact that you have control over gravity and that you have a crystal in the same location as Lael's. Then there is the Magicite. Naruto Uzumaki, don't you find that a little odd? Alternatively, Naruto Sol Alphateria." Everyone who was unaware of his ancestors gasped in surprise and stared at him, then at Lael, before turning back to Naruto with wide eyes. Shino's only sign of shock was his raised eyebrows. Naruto scowled. "Naruto? Is that accurate?" Sakura inquired, and Sasuke, Kiba, and Kurenai were all too stunned to do anything but stare at him. "Yes," Naruto said with a sigh. "It's accurate. Althea and Lael are both my ancestors." With the exception of Kakashi, Taiki, and Hinata, the others continued to gaze at him. "Look, I don't think this is a good place to talk about this," But why did you even bring it up, Professor? Naruto said, embarrassed and scratching the back of his head. Shrugging, Taiki said, I just want to get the facts straight. As interesting as this is, I think we are supposed to be surveying the ruins, if I remember correctly, Kakashi said, clearing his throat to bring everyone back to earth. Taiki leaned against the wall, beside the portrait of Amidate Lion, and said, right, there might be another room or passageway connected to this room. We should. Whoa! His head then protruded from the wall after he fell back, out of sight. Well, I didn't expect to find it like that, but I guess we can continue, he said. Let's go, Kakashi said, and everyone entered, though Naruto took one last look at the mural before stepping inside. The shinobi approached the spot in the wall, and Kakashi felt the wall until he felt the edges of the entrance. He marked the edges so it would be easier to enter, being careful not to damage the mural and portrait. After entering the corridor, they strolled silently for approximately an hour until they arrived at what appeared to be a fallen city. City ruins? Taiki questioned, doesn't look like Lil T, Clavid, or Selkie culture. He proceeded to observe the architecture while standing on a bridge leading to the entryway, where 4 statues were positioned. The closest one on the left showed a slender figure in armor that resembled a second skin. The second, in clockwise order, showed a hooded figure in a cloak with a carved face. The third showed a man with his left hand to his chest, looking slightly up. The final statue showed another armored figure, but this one's armor was bulkier and slightly raised an axe. Kakashi approached the professor and said, be careful, there may be traps. You could be right, Taiki said, pausing to look down at the writing carved into the stone. Look at this, he said, squatting down. An inscription? Kakashi crouching as the others approached, he asked. Are you able to read it? Sakura inquired. It's not the same writing as the one on the mural, Taiki said, shaking his head. After staring at it for a moment, Naruto's head began to ache. Ah, as the pain worsened, he mumbled, gripping his head. What's wrong, Naruto? Did some miasma enter his system? Kakashi inquired, glancing at his pupil. As the pain spread throughout his body, Naruto was unable to react right away and dropped to his knees, exclaiming, M.My body. Ah! As he gasped for air, Naruto put his hands on the ground to keep his face from colliding with the crystal in his cheek, which flared, and the pain subsided. Naruto.kun, are you alright? Hinata helped him up and asked. Shaking his head, Naruto answered, yeah, I believe so. What on earth just took place? Taiki said, perhaps there is something here that your body responded to, and everyone else shrugged, since none of them knew. However, I'm not sure what can accomplish that. Naruto pondered, how can I sense it? I didn't sense it before the pain started, but I could after. Did the thing that caused the pain give me that ability? He said, whatever it is, I can feel its power from here, after sensing whatever it was on the other side of the fallen city. How? Kiba inquired. I'm not sure, but I don't want to tamper with it if it's a living thing. They all nodded in agreement that they didn't want to engage in combat with something that could hurt them from that distance. Looking at the inscription, Naruto was shocked to see that he could read it. What the hell? Out loud, he thought. What is it? Kakashi inquired, waiting for a sign of a miasma stream to emerge, just in case. When Naruto said, I can read the inscription now, he sounded perplexed. Everybody's eyebrows went up. Taiki exclaimed, read it then, taking out a notepad to record the translation. Naruto read, the 4 crystals were there at first, and they came together to form a single principle. Taiki nodded as he continued, so the world was created. A creation myth. The 4 crystals then created humanity in their own image, and oversaw their destinies. The 4 tribes T, Clavid, Selkie, and USA were thus created. Unfortunately for Sasuke, he was standing on the section that vanished, so he didn't finish because the word, the statues, and the majority of the floor on which they stood disappeared. Ah! Before he could fall too far, Naruto grabbed Sasuke's hand as he began to yell. Naruto said, gotcha, and he lifted him up. Thanks, Sasuke said, glancing at the ruins, which were now inaccessible to anyone other than ninjas. If that was a trap, then these ruins must be important. I don't believe that it was. Looking at some floating blocks, Naruto remarked, I think it has to be Yu culture though, or at least ancient Yu culture. The ruins must be unstable. Do you think we should keep investigating the ruins? Sakura looked into the empty space beneath them and asked. No, Kakashi replied. That chasm must be crossed in a much safer manner before we can proceed. We must go back. Taiki didn't argue, but he did appear upset that the ruins investigation would be delayed. Kakashi looked at Naruto and said, let's head back into the tunnel and rest for a while, then we can head back. The other ninja understood and concurred. After a few minutes of walking back into the tunnel, Hinata, who had been helping a still recovering Naruto, assisted him in sitting down to rest. "How are you feeling?" As she sat beside him, staring at her fiancé copyright with worry, she asked him. "I'm fine," Naruto said, partially lying, because he didn't want to worry her and he was feeling better but not completely. "Hey, how long will we rest, Kakashi sensei?" Sakura inquired. Kurenai shrugged when Kakashi turned to face him. "I think we should take an hour or so to rest before we go back," he said. "However, by then, that miasma stream might be reopened." "Do we have to battle those things once more?" Pale at the idea, Kiba questioned. "Maybe, Kiba," replied Kakashi. "But if the miasma stream has opened again, maybe Kurenai could put a genjutsu on all of them to get them fight each other, then take out the Iron Giant and whatever's remaining." Shino stated, "But if we are lucky, we won't have to fight them. I've read that miasma streams that produce more powerful monsters take longer to reopen," Shino said. "Therefore, we probably won't have to battle them." Kiba let out a sigh of relief. The group resumed their activities after resting for an hour, and Naruto was fully recovered from whatever had happened at the city ruins. Fortunately, they were spared from fighting the monsters again, and they made it across the room without any issues. Naruto asked everyone he had lent magicite to return them, and he sealed his magicite after he had done so. After leaving the ruins and preparing to go to the capital to report to the daimyo, they realized it was nightfall and chose to stay at a hotel and report to him in the morning instead. The meeting went well, and the daimyo dismissed them. Hiruzen, who appeared to be upset by something, looked up as the shinobi returned to Konoha and checked in at the gates before making their way to the Hokage tower. He said, "Ah, you're back. I had assumed you wouldn't be coming back until tomorrow, unless something occurred." Hiruzen was upset that Naruto's ancestry was revealed to the rest of Team 8, so he made them swear not to speak until it was made public. "Yes, Lord Hokage," Kakashi said, before launching into his explanation, leaving nothing out. "That's all there is to say, Lord Hokage," Kakashi said. "Excellent. I need a report by tomorrow at noon from both Kakashi and Kurenai. Those who have nothing more to say are free to go." Kakashi waited until the door closed before speaking, after Team Ada minus Hinata left. "Lord Hokage, earlier yesterday, when I arrived at my team's meeting spot, I learned that Sakura and Sasuke found out something about Naruto." Looking at Kakashi, Hiruzen said, "Which is?" Kakashi said, "I would rather there were less ears," as he looked at Hinata. "Hinata already knows about my parents, Kakashi sensei," Naruto said. While Hiruzen raised an eyebrow at Sasuke and Sakura, Kakashi turned to Hinata in shock. "Sasuke, Sakura, could you please explain how you found out?" Unfortunately, they were unable to omit Naruto and Hinata's engagement from their explanation. "I see," Hiruzen leaned back and said, "until these topics are made public, none of you are permitted to speak about them except Naruto. You get it?" Everyone said, "Yes, Lord Hokage," and the Hokage brushed them off. Each of the four felt that things were only beginning as they left the building and went their separate ways. 1. A rock does not have perfect sides or eye holes. 2. What are you doing here? And 3. Nice goggles, Naruto said as he spun around and used his gravity powers to flip over a square box with a rock pattern and eye holes after he and Hinata had been walking through Konoha without discussing anything specific. 2 boys and a girl stood in front of the flipped box. A boy with brown eyes and spiky brown hair like Naruto's, wearing a yellow shirt with the Konoha leaf on the front, a blue scarf, and gray shorts. Another boy with light brown hair and a runny nose, wearing a dark blue jacket, gray pants, and glasses. And a girl with orange hair and 2 high ponytails, light green eyes, and a red vest over a light green shirt and gray shorts. Why has the wardrobe changed, too? Astonished, Naruto asked, "Was that today?" "I apologize, but I've been quite busy, Konohamaru. I might even teach you some things to make up for it tomorrow. Regarding the attire, I've begun to take my ninja profession seriously. However, you assured Moegi, Udon, and myself that you would play with us today," Konohamaru remarked. "Why tomorrow?" "Wow, a ninja playing ninja," Sakura exclaimed as she approached, her expression a little sad. "You got turned down again?" Placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder, Naruto inquired. Sakura nodded and sighed, but Udon interrupted her to ask, "Is she your girlfriend?" He gestured toward Sakura. Both Sakura and Naruto yelled, "No, boss can do better than her," snorted Konohamaru. "Just take a look at her. Her chest is absent." Sakura stiffened, and Naruto shook his head, saying, "Konohamaru, wrong thing to say to her." Hinata's and Naruto's eyes widened. "What?" Konohamaru asked, Then he saw the expression on Sakura's face as she cracked her knuckles, and he understood. Oh. Go, men. As Sakura pursued Konohamaru, Udon, and Moegi, Naruto and Hinata sighed and ran after them to prevent Sakura from killing Konohamaru, knowing that the Hokage would be furious if his grandson was killed. Konohamaru didn't notice anyone in front of him until he bumped into him and fell because he was too preoccupied trying to escape the girl with the pink hair. Ah, brat, that hurt. As he picked Konohamaru up, the man said, with a wrapped package as large as himself on his back, a shinobi headband with a rectangle over an hourglass as the symbol, and a black bodysuit with a hood covering his hair and a red and yellow circle on the front, black fingerless gloves, and black shinobi sandals. Kankuro, stop him. Next to the boy now known as Kankuro, a blonde woman with her hair in 4 short ponytails in the back, wearing a light purple knee-length battle dress over a mesh shirt and mesh leggings, said, "You're just going to get in trouble later." A shinobi headband with the same symbol as Kankuro's hung around her neck. Calm down, Tamari. Since he won't be here for a while, I can at least enjoy myself, Kankuro remarked, putting up his fist to hit Konohamaru. Well, I'm not involved in this, Tamari declared. Tamari and Kankuro turned to face Naruto, who pulsed out a wave of chakra and said, "Put him down right now, or I will make you. You snot-nosed brat, what are you capable of doing? Or will you force the weakling with the pale eyes next to you to do it?" Both Naruto and Hinata's eyes twitched in rage at the taunts directed at one another by Kankuro. He's going to regret that, thought Sakura and Sasuke, who was hiding in a nearby tree. Time from start to finish. 3.5 seconds. Naruto rushed to Kankuro, who tripped him with a thread of chakra at his feet. When Naruto saw it, he jumped, flipped, and landed on Kankuro's chest, causing him to drop Konohamaru as he fell to the ground. Naruto caught Konohamaru before he hit the ground, jumped off Kankuro, landing at his starting position, and then put Konohamaru down. That was fantastic, boss. Could you demonstrate that for me? Konohamaru bellowed. Not right now. And what have you learned from this? Naruto turned to Kankuro and grinned. I'll show you when you get your reflexes up. I really hate punks like you. Kankuro glared as he stood up and reached for the package on his back, but he stopped when Sasuke threw a rock that struck his hand. What are you sand ninja doing in our village? Sasuke asked, tossing a rock up a few times with his left hand. As Tamari glanced at Sasuke and Naruto, she thought, whoa, local hottie. But the blonde looks cuter. That's it, I'm getting really annoyed with you. As he removed the package from his back, Kankuro uttered those words. Kankuro. The crow isn't meant for you, you're going to get it the way it is, Tamari said. Sensing that someone was dangling behind Sasuke, Naruto pointed to a branch behind Sasuke and emphasized, I don't think your friend hanging like a bat behind Sasuke likes what you're doing. As expected, there was a man, roughly the same age as the rookies, with green eyes, black rings around his eyes, red spiky hair like Naruto's, and the kanji for love in red on the left side of his forehead. He was wearing a black short-sleeved bodysuit that hung slightly past his knees with a mesh shirt underneath, white straps wrapped around his torso, and a large brown strap that ran from his left shoulder to his right hip, on which his headband was tied. A gourd as tall as his torso hung from his white straps, and he said, Kankuro, you're an embarrassment to our village? But they initiated it, Gaara. Kankuro objected, his eyes displaying anxiety and fear. Shut up, or I'll kill you, the boy who was now Gaara said. Naruto felt the aura Gaara exuded and thought, Takeshi, this aura. Takeshi stated, yes, without a doubt. Be careful, Naruto, he's a Jinchuriki, just like you. Based on the Tanuki scent, the demon sealed in him must be Shukaku, Old One. Tail, who controls sand. However, there must be a problem with the seal because he appears to be an insomniac. That black-haired kid nailed Kankuro with a rock. That took skill. And that blonde kid knocked Kankuro down in 3 seconds. And that blue thing on his cheek. Interesting. Gaara turned to face Sasuke and apologized for their behavior. He then vanished in a whirlpool of sand and reappeared between Tamari and Kankuro. I know we're a week early, but we didn't come here to play around. Sorry, said Kankuro. Tamari said, I'm sorry too, I should have stopped him. Gaara said, let's go, and turned around. Hold on, you three are from the Hidden Sand Village, aren't you? Sakura said. Even though our villages are allies, you are not allowed to cross our border without permission, per our treaty. Why are you here, then? Have you not heard? Yes, we're genin from the Hidden Sand, Tamari said as Sasuke touched down beside Naruto. The Chunin exams are the reason we are here. Both Hinata and Naruto arched their brows. The Chunin exams. Oh, I remember now, said Naruto. They're held every 6 months to determine who among all the hidden villages gets promoted from Genin to Chunin. Tamari remarked, well, I'm glad I don't have to explain it. What are your names? You with the blonde and black hair, Gaara inquired. The answer was, Sasuke Uchiha, Sasuke said. You are Naruto Uzumaki? Naruto answered. Gaara turned around and said, Tamari, Kankuro, we're leaving. Gaara no Sabaku, he said. The three departed at breakneck speed, heading in an unknown direction. With his arms folded in contemplation, Naruto remarked, this will be interesting. Definitely, Sasuke nodded. How did you detect Gaara in that location? Everyone emits a magical presence, just as they emit a chakra presence, Naruto clarified, adding that while a person's magical presence can be controlled, it is not always the same as their chakra presence. Additionally, a person's magical presence changes a little depending on the emotion they're experiencing. Sasuke remarked, so, you felt his magical presence, was it due to? I think it does have to do with what happened on our last mission. What are you talking about, boss? Konohamaru said. Sorry, Konohamaru, I can't talk about it, Naruto said, adding that Hinata and I must leave, later. Sakura pulled out a medical jutsu scroll and said, oh, Naruto, hold on a minute. I've committed its contents to memory. Naruto took the scroll and said, okay, after Hina's finished with it, I'll lend you the next one. After putting her head on Naruto's shoulder and putting her arm around his, Hinata and Naruto left. After Naruto and Hinata entered their home library and put the scroll Sakura had given back in its place, Hinata picked up the scroll next to it and sat down at one of the tables to read it while Naruto searched for a wind jutsu scroll. On his way to the wind jutsu section, he ran into a small pedestal with a vase on it, just like the one on the opposite side of the room that concealed the blood seal for the hidden staircase. He grabbed the vase to keep it from falling, but something behind it caught his attention, and when he placed it on a table close to him, he noticed that the wall appeared strange and attempted to touch it, but his hand passed right through it instead. Naruto-kun? Are you all right? Hinata looked up from her scroll and asked. I'm fine, Hinata. Chan, Naruto said, glancing at the wall. Using his abilities, he lifted the pedestal and moved it to allow him to enter the alcove. Then, as he approached the wall, he inserted his hand, this time attempting to locate the boundaries of the fake wall, and discovered that it was only large enough to accommodate his arm. What are you doing? Hinata asked as she walked up to see Naruto's arm going through the wall. Naruto-kun? I think I found something, Hina. Chan, Naruto retorted as he felt inside the false wall. His hand brushed against something and he grabbed it, and when he pulled it out, he discovered that it was a box large enough to hold 3 scrolls. He opened it to find the stated number of scrolls and took one out. He put the vase and pedestal back, and then he sat down at the table to see what was in the scroll. He saw a blood seal on it, so he bit his thumb and smeared the blood on it, opening the scroll. He unfolded it further to read its contents, and he was immediately relieved to be seated, as he began to shake with excitement. You won't believe the amount of jutsu contained in this scroll. What is it? Looking over his shoulder, Hinata's mouth dropped slightly in surprise as she said, Naruto-kun, isn't this? It is. It's the Rasengan, one of my dad's signature jutsus. This is amazing. Do you believe that one of the other scrolls possesses the Flying Thunder God technique that gave your father his moniker, the Yellow Flash? Hinata inquired. Naruto picked up the scroll in the back and opened it, but as soon as he did, he fainted. Maybe, he said, furling the scroll back up and placing it back in the box. Naruto-kun. Hinata shouted, worried. She sent chakra into him to wake him up, and asked as he sat up slowly, are you okay? Naruto looked at the scroll and said, yeah, I'm fine, Hinata. This is the Flying Thunder God technique. The fact that I discovered the scrolls containing his 2 most well-known jutsu is unbelievable. Don't go too far, Naruto. The Rasengan is an A-rank jutsu, while the Flying Thunder God is an S-rank space-time ninjutsu. I understand, but at least we can continue working on the Rasengan. Until I'm older, I won't attempt to learn the other. We? Inquired Hinata. Naruto turned to face her with a kind grin. Yes, we, Hina. I want you to learn it as well. But. Naruto kissed her to put an end to her protest. It's okay, Hina. It's really just chakra control. You can learn it. But it's your heritage. I don't want to make you feel that it's necessary for me to learn it because we're engaged. Naruto gave her another kiss. That's not why I want you to learn it. It's because I feel you can learn it. don't doubt yourself, okay? After saying, okay, Hinata put her arms around Naruto's neck and planted a kiss on him. After remaining that way for a short while, they withdrew and grinned at one another. Naruto said, now, how about we start? Determined not to let him down, Hinata nodded. Naruto made a shadow clone and went out to fetch some items. Okay, he said, turning to the scroll. It looks like there are 3 stages to learn it. The scroll says for the first step, we have to use only our chakra to pop a balloon filled with water by rotating it. How do we do that? When Hinata said, maybe Kakashi Sensei knows. Naruto replied, yeah, maybe, and then he made a clone to go get his perverted teacher. Guess we have to wait until my clones get back. The box containing the flying thunder god technique and the other scroll, which turned out to be a letter from Naruto's mother, Kushina Uzumaki. Namikaze, telling him to be strong and to find a girl when he was older, were placed in it by Naruto and Hinata while they waited. The clone sent to retrieve Kakashi arrived 30 minutes later, and the other clone arrived 5 minutes later, so the wait was short. As they stood in the backyard, Kakashi turned to face his sensei's son and said, okay, Naruto, why did you have a clone drag me here? I found the scroll that contained details on the Rasengan, and wanted to start learning it with Hinata. We both think you might know it. Before he could say, I do know it, but you do realize this is an A-rank ninjutsu that uses spatial manipulation, right? Kakashi's visible eye widened. Yes, we know, commented Hinata. We understand that spatial manipulation requires us to use our chakra to manipulate the space it occupies without use of hand signs and the basics of it. With a sigh, Kakashi lifted his right hand, palm up, and curled his fingers slightly before saying, I guess I have to show you it so you understand. Be patient, because I haven't done this in a while. A blue ball appeared in his hand after a few seconds. Multiple strands of multicolored chakra swirled in different directions over the same center of the sphere, which had a diameter equal to his palm. Hinata was taken aback by its intricacy and used her Byakugan to gain a deeper understanding of it. Wow, it's so complex. Kakashi dismissed the Rasengan and nodded. It is. It took Sensei 3 years to master it. Naruto remarked, but he was the one creating it. Wouldn't it take longer to master a jutsu if you're creating it rather than learning it? Yes, but what I'm trying to say is don't expect to master it in a month. If that's all you need me for. Naruto said, yeah, it is. Thanks, Sensei, as he made a clone to accompany Kakashi outside. See you. Kakashi then went off to read his perverted novels, as he always did. Using a transformation jutsu, Naruto had his clone purchase a water balloon. Alright, he said, picking it up. What do you think, Hinata-chan? Hinata said, Well, it looked like he was creating layers of chakra streams, while also picking up a balloon. Maybe we should create a stream at the outermost edges of the water, then add streams until the balloon bursts? After giving it some thought, Naruto nodded. That sounds like a good idea. They began formulating their plan after cupping their hands over the balloons. After a few minutes, Hinata's balloon began to deform as though someone was trying to punch her way out of it. Then it shredded, sending paper shrapnel flying through the backyard, while Naruto's balloon burst slightly and released the water. Naruto grinned proudly and exclaimed, Dang, Hinata, you got it on your first try. After blushing, Hinata remarked, It's not that big of a deal. I'm sure you'll do it on your next try. Let's find out, shall we? Naruto said, picking up one of the other water balloons. He began using his chakra to swirl the water, then added a stream, then another, until the balloon shredded like Hinata's, but not as violently. Naruto scowled. Something didn't seem right. However, he was unable to solve it. Do you want my assistance? Takeshi offered. Yes, thought Naruto. Alright, so you were turning the water to the left, but you might be a right rotation type, which means your chakra coils turn like a corkscrew to the right. How can I be certain that I wasn't turning the water quickly enough? Because you were. Takeshi said, put your hand on your head, which Naruto did, perplexing Hinata. She said, Naruto-kun, what is it? Something seemed off when I shredded the balloon, and Takeshi is trying to help me find out what, said Naruto. You got it, Naruto. You're the type that rotates to the right. Try it again, but rotate the water to the right this time, Takeshi advised. After grabbing a third balloon, Naruto followed Takeshi's advice. It shredded more violently than Hinata's this time. Hinata questioned, what was wrong, Naruto-kun? I was rotating the water to the left when I should have been rotating it to the right, Naruto said. I guess the Rasengan varies slightly between right rotation types and left rotation types. With a maybe, Hinata picked up one of the hollow rubber balls that the clone that had been transformed had also purchased. What was the next step? The scroll caught Naruto's attention. The second step is to add power and shred the rubber ball. They tried to accomplish that, but all they succeeded in doing was creating a hole in them. They made 5 more attempts before Hinata's chakra ran out and she passed out. Hinata uttered, I can't do any more, Naruto-kun. Naruto reassured her, it's okay, Hinata-chan, and assisted her in standing. I think we can try again tomorrow. That sound good to you? The real Naruto picked Hinata up bridal style, causing her to blush a lot, and proceeded to the kitchen while Hinata nodded and Naruto made some clones to clean up and carry the unused balloons inside the house. Naruto positioned her in a chair and said, sit and rest. I'll make dinner tonight. Hinata said, okay, as she observed Naruto starting his work. After a week, when Naruto and Hinata awoke, they stretched and yawned. 2 days ago, much to Kakashi's surprise and annoyance, they had mastered the second stage of the Rasengan. Combining the first 2 steps and keeping them in a sphere the size of each person's palm for at least a minute was the final step. Yesterday, Hinata lasted a minute before requiring a soldier pill to replenish her chakra, whereas Naruto had managed 59.99 seconds. She was then stopped by Naruto, who informed her that they had successfully mastered the Rasengan for the time being and could work on extending its holding time later. Hinata remarked, I don't want to get up today, I want to rest after that training we did yesterday. Naruto remarked, I know, but we have team meetings today. With a sigh, Hinata stood up to shower, and Naruto followed suit. When they were done, they went downstairs to begin breakfast. Naruto asked abruptly, Hinata, could you promise me something? What? Promise me you won't use the Rasengan unless it's necessary. Saying, of course, Naruto-kun, Hinata grinned at him. Thank you, Hinata-chan, Naruto replied with a smile of his own. He looked at the time. We should get going. Don't you mean, I should get going while you wait an hour before you head to your team's meeting spot to wait for your always late sensei? Replied Hinata. Nah, I don't want to sit in the house doing nothing for an hour, Naruto remarked, laughing at her joke. But you would rather stand at your meeting spot for an hour? After saying, I'll just take a nap while I wait, Naruto planted a kiss on her cheek. Hinata scowled. You did it wrong. Naruto questioned, huh? Before Hinata gave him a passionate kiss. After grinning, Naruto put his arms around her waist and gave her a kiss in return. He withdrew after a few minutes and uttered the words, we really do have to meet our teams, Hinata gave him a quick kiss while grinning. I know. I just wanted a proper kiss. See you later, Naruto-kun. She left, and Naruto called after her, okay, see you later, Hina. Before heading out himself. He found Sakura and Sasuke waiting for him and Kakashi when he got to the location where his team would be meeting. Naruto greeted, morning, Sasuke, Sakura. The two said, morning, and Sasuke replied, you think Kakashi is going to nominate us for the Chunin exams? Maybe, said Naruto. The three waited while discussing what they might face in the Chunin exams if they were nominated. Well, we'll find out when he gets here. Yo! Exclaimed Kakashi an hour later. You're getting closer to being on time, sensei, Naruto remarked, raising his eyebrows. Well, I can be on time when I want to, Kakashi remarked while massaging his posterior. He took out 3 forms and gave them to his team, saying, anyway, I have some news for you 3. I have nominated you for the Chunin exams. Then he vanished in a whirl of leaves. You have the rest of the day off. See ya. You are to fill these out and turn them into room 301 at the Shinobi Academy by noon tomorrow. Sakura and Sasuke grinned at the prospect of taking part, but Naruto's eyes were distant. When Sasuke noticed this, he said, what's wrong, Naruto? When Naruto didn't answer, Sasuke shouted, yo, Earth to Naruto, in his ear. Huh? What did you say? Naruto asked, waking from his reverie. Sakura laughed. As he had been doing, Naruto blushed and asked, thinking about a certain girl, Naruto? S.So. Nothing, chuckled Sakura. Anyway, what do you think? Should we participate? Naruto thought as he closed his eyes. Well, perhaps we ought to. It would be an excellent opportunity to assess our current situation and to strengthen ourselves. However, he opened his eyes and said, if one of my teammates doesn't want to go, I don't want to go. Sakura, how is your training with medical jutsu going? Pretty good. I've asked Medic Nin to help me when they have time, and they've taught me a lot, Sakura said. I can heal up to cracked bones, but that's it. Naruto gave a sympathetic nod. I think we should participate. I agree. It will give us a good chance to see ninja from other countries in action, and give us a learning experience, even if we fail. It's a win-win situation, Sasuke said as he placed his own 2 Ryo. What do you think, Sakura? Sakura responded, let's go for it. I want to see how well our training's going. Naruto grinned. Then we're in agreement. We'll participate. I didn't want to participate if either of you didn't either. We go as a team in full agreement, or not at all. Sasuke and Sakura both nodded in agreement. Hey, how about we find Hinata and go out to eat for lunch? My treat. According to Sasuke, sure, if it's fine with Hinata. Sakura replied, sure, but we should stay away from my house. Dad's a bit mad about something, and Mom's trying to calm him down. Naruto clarified, your dad tried to set up a marriage contract between us. I could tell that part of the reason he did that was for better social status, so I rejected his request. Sakura's expression turned disgusted. She cried out, I don't even like you like that. Oh, I'm going to chew him out. That was the other reason I rejected it. You're like a sister to me, now that I think about it. Sakura flushed with shame. She grinned and said, thanks, Naruto. Naruto returned the smile. A voice called out, Naruto.kun, and Naruto turned to face it, grinning even wider. With a broad smile, Hinata rushed towards him. Hey, Hina. Naruto greeted her with a hug. Hey, do you mind if Sasuke and Sakura come with us for lunch? He said, releasing his grip while still holding her by the shoulders. Hinata said, I'm fine with it, while maintaining her smile. Did your sensei nominate you 3 for the Chunin exams? Sakura said, yeah, he did. Did yours? Yes, Hinata replied. She looked down and pressed her fingers together anxiously, saying, Kurenai. Sensei feels that we're ready for them. But I'm a bit worried about how we'll do. You'll do fine, Hinata, Naruto said, giving her shoulders a slight squeeze. You can do this. After all, you mastered that jutsu in a week. Not everyone can do that. When Sasuke asked, what jutsu? Sorry, Sakura, but I don't want to reveal it before the exams, Naruto replied. Sakura remarked, I guess that's understandable, where should we eat? Naruto remarked, well, how about the Akamichi's barbecue restaurant? Sasuke said, sure, let's go, and the 4 of them headed out to the restaurant, which they reached an hour later. Careful not to touch the circular grill in the center of the table, they went into the restaurant and sat at a booth facing the window. Hi, welcome to the Akamichi Barbecue Palace. My name is Kira and how can I help you? A waitress said. Sasuke declared, I'd like 2 orders of ribs. 1 order of ribs for me, announced Sakura, when Hinata said, I'll have an order of ribs too. Naruto said, same here, and nodded. Okay, anything to drink? Kira asked after recording the 4 orders. Sasuke remarked, a large Pepsi for me, when Sakura said, I'll take a medium Coke Zero. Please give me a medium Sprite, Hinata said. Naruto declared, I'll have a large Coke Zero. Kira said, okay, I'll be back with your drinks and orders soon, and turned to leave. The 4 friends discussed their strengths and weaknesses and what would probably be tested on the exams while they waited. They were too busy talking to notice a platinum blonde girl a few booths away, talking to her teammates. She had light blue eyes and her hair in a long ponytail. She was dressed in a purple battle dress, white arm sleeves that extended from her wrists to her elbows, combat wrappings on her torso to her knees, and a purple sleeveless shirt that ended halfway to her stomach. She had her leaf headband on around her waist. Ino Yamanaka was her name. One of her teammates had black eyes and a small bunch of hair at the back of his head that resembled a pineapple. He was dressed in knee-length black pants and a mesh shirt with a gray vest lined with green. He appeared to be asleep because his head was resting on the table, which was true. His headband was fastened to his vest's left sleeve, close to the shoulder. Shikamaru Nara was his name. A plump child with brown eyes and brown hair was Ino's other teammate. He was dressed in gray shorts, a shirt with the kanji for food on it, a green vest, and a scarf around his neck. From his elbows to his hands, his arms were wrapped in combat gear. He had swirl marks on his cheeks. The cloth was wrapped over his head and around the sides of his headband, which he wore on his head. Shoji Akamichi was his name. Squealing, Ino exclaimed, I'm so glad we decided to participate in the Chunin exams. She grabbed her barbecue tongs and gave Shikamaru a bang, causing him to awaken. I can't wait to show Sakura how Sasuke is mine. What about you guys? Shikamaru, wake up, she said. Shikamaru rubbed the top of his head and grumbled, ow, troublesome woman. What was that for? For not listening. Now what do you 2 think about the Chunin exams? As he began his 5th order of ribs, Shoji remarked, I'm excited to see how we stack up. Shikamaru replied, troublesome, and was about to put his head back down when he noticed something that caused him to blink. Is that a? It's Naruto, whoa. Alongside Hinata Hyuga. Difficult, but I'd better keep Ino from seeing them together. However, the Crystal Principal had other ideas. Ino turned to see what Shikamaru was staring at and said, what are you looking at, Shikamaru? Her mouth fell open. She couldn't see Naruto's cheek whisker marks, so she asked her team, who's the cute guy sitting with Hinata, Sakura, and Sasuke? Choji glanced over. He scowled as he tried to identify what it was. Don't know, but something about him seems familiar. Shikamaru shrugged, attempting to hide his knowledge. After saying, well, let's find out, Ino stood up and pulled her teammates over. I will not allow anyone to stand in the way of Naruto and Hinata. They would be a wonderful couple. Choji whimpered, M.my food, as he attempted to seize a rib. Save it. What a drag, replied Shikamaru. Hey, Sasuke.kun. Miss me? Ino said as Naruto was just finishing up. She put her arms around the Uchiha's neck from behind him and pushed her head over his shoulder. Sasuke said, Ino, let go of me, as he gave her a confused look. She looked up and said, no way, you're mine, you hear me? Who's your friend? Naruto isn't really cut out to be a ninja after all? Shikamaru nodded at Naruto and remarked, troublesome woman. Hey, Naruto. Looks like you got rid of that orange jumpsuit. It was getting really troublesome, Naruto concluded, grinning at his companion. Ino nearly shouted, wait, that's Naruto? As she blinked. Shikamaru posed a rhetorical question, obviously. Who else do we know with whisker marks on his cheeks? Ino released Sasuke and glared at him. Ino said, so, Hinata, what are you doing here? Hinata leaned against Naruto, who also flushed as he put an arm around her shoulders, and said, I'm getting lunch with my boyfriend and his team. Ino's eyes, along with those of Choji and Shikamaru, almost burst from her head. After all, she had just referred to Naruto as her boyfriend and wasn't stuttering like she had at the academy. She appeared to have changed, even though she was still dressed in the same gray hooded jacket from that time. Ino said, boyfriend? When did that happen? About a month ago, replied Naruto. I asked her out after we got back from our first C-rank mission after we bumped into each other. Ino inquired, did you plan it? He kept the crystal on his right cheek out of sight as he said, no, it was spontaneous, but I don't regret it. He was aware that Ino was a gossip queen and would quickly spread the rumor that he was a crystal bearer. But Shikamaru paled when he saw it. He is a bearer of crystals. However, if the crystal is on his right cheek, precisely where that you must be joking. Shikamaru quickly collected himself as he thought, troublesome. Someone behind Choji yelled, excuse me, and he shifted to allow Kira to walk by carrying Naruto's and the others' orders. Sorry, Kira, said Choji. It's fine, Choji, Kira clarified, though I thought you would still be eating at your table. With wide eyes, Choji realized, oh, crap, it's probably gone by now. Everyone laughed. Same old Choji, Naruto remarked with a smile. Naruto stretched his arms and yawned as he awoke. Still half asleep, Hinata muttered something and put her arms around him. Hina. Haim, we have to wake up. We have to take the Chunin exams today, remember? Naruto said with a laugh. Hinata's eyes were wide as she sat up straight. She looked at her nightstand clock and said, we didn't oversleep, didn't we? When she realized they had 5 hours left before the scheduled time, she let out a sigh of relief. Oh, thank goodness. I don't want to be late. Neither do I, Haim, Naruto continued, planting a kiss on her forehead. Let's get ready, shall we? An hour later, they climbed out of bed and prepared to leave the house to meet up with their individual teammates. Wearing a dark blue long sleeve shirt with a mesh shirt underneath and beige pants that fell halfway between her knees and ankles, Hinata made the decision to part with her body, hiding gray jacket. Naruto, do you think you're ready for this? Althea questioned him. Really, I don't know, Naruto answered. I have this weird, uneasy feeling for no apparent reason. I am unable to explain it. Takeshi said, it's probably just your instincts telling you to be careful, even though he felt the same way. Naruto said, maybe, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was overlooking something. Hinata asked, is something wrong? After noticing her fiancé copyright's distressed expression. Naruto said, yeah, I just need to check something. Go on without me, before turning to go to the library. Though she appeared perplexed, Hinata chose to believe her fiancé copyright and walked away. After entering the library, Naruto wiped some blood off the blood seal that concealed the stairway to the Magicite. Choosing not to waste time, he slid down the stairway. Where are they? He asked himself as he rummaged through the military magicite in the storage room. As he proceeded. What are you trying to find? Amidate Lion inquired. Naruto answered, either a raise or an arise magicite. If this bad feeling turns out to be real, I'm not taking any chances. Raise and arise? Amidate Lion inquired, perplexed. Naruto, you must realize that those two spells require certain conditions to function, right? Yes, Naruto replied, continuing to look. Only the killing wound or the poison or venom that killed the person can be healed by applying raise to their body within an hour of their passing. Although arise has a 30-minute time limit, it heals all of the wounds rather than just the fatal blow. Additionally, neither spell can be used to revive a person more than once. You cannot cast raise on someone who has already had arise cast on them, or vice versa. He paused upon seeing two orange magicites and grinned momentarily. There they are. After examining them, he put the one with the single star, raise, back where it belonged. Turning around, Naruto left his house, sealing everything before rushing to locate his team. Beyond the academy, still sporting his trademark duck butt black hairstyle, Sasuke winced as he rubbed the cheek that had been punched by a bull-haired oddball in a green jumpsuit named Rock Lee after he had challenged him to a fight. What is Naruto doing? He's almost late. And what the hell was up with that bull-haired freak? He asked, looking at his watch. Sakura shrugged and remarked, we still have 3 hours until the deadline. Maybe he had to do something, and that Rock Lee is a freak. Seriously, I will never go out with him, no matter how many times he'll ask. Sakura had chosen to cut her bubblegum pink hair short to the shoulders. As he ran up, the very blonde they were referring to said, maybe who had to do something? Sorry about being late. I had to check something. Sakura, perplexed by her teammate's expression, said, it's okay, but she chose not to inquire. Naruto looked around and asked, where's Hinata? Sasuke remarked, she and her team went on up, now let's go. After entering the academy, the three genin began to ascend the stairs to the 3rd floor. They halted on the 2nd floor when they noticed 2 Konoha genin blocking a sizable crowd gathered around a pair of doors. Naruto asked his team in a low voice, wait, we're on the 2nd floor, right? And they nodded. So why are they crowding around the door? He asked when he saw that the sign above the door read, 301, rather than 201. Naruto thought, there must be a way to weed out the weak teams, but Sasuke interrupted him before he could respond. Hey, what are you doing with that pathetic excuse of a genjutsu? We have business on the 3rd floor. This is only the 2nd floor. While those obstructing the door scowled, the majority of the genin surrounding it appeared perplexed. The person with the bandage over his nose inquired, how did you know? Like my teammate said, it was a weak genjutsu. Also, he added, raising a fist and slamming Sasuke on his head, you moron. If you didn't say anything, there would have been less competition. Naruto grimaced as he and everyone else in his mind thought, idiot. He pointed to the genin obstructing the door. Those guys are here to weed out the weak teams. Like the majority of the genin, Sasuke, hemmed but was unable to refute Naruto's statement and began to leave. With a sigh, Sakura and Naruto began to follow him. When Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto turned around, they saw a pale-eyed Konoha genin with long brown hair approach them. Hold up! Yelled one of the genin who had been huddled in front of the doors. He had his headband on his forehead and was dressed in dark blue shorts and a beige jacket. Combat wrappings were wrapped around his right arm. What are your names? You two with the black and blonde hair. In response, Naruto said, Naruto Uzumaki. Sasuke Uchiha. But isn't it common courtesy to give your name first? Said Sasuke with a sly smile. The young man scowled at Naruto and uttered the words, Neji Hyuga. Naruto thought, so this guy is Hina's cousin, and raised an eyebrow. So this is the weakling that Lord Hiashi wisely decided to have Hinata marry, Neji thought, glancing at Naruto. Naruto raised his voice. His teammates nodded and left the Hyuga after saying, Sasuke, Sakura, we should go. After giving Naruto a fierce look behind his back, Neji motioned to his teammates and began making his way to room 301. Naruto smiled upon seeing Hinata and her group outside room 301. He encircled her waist with an arm and said, Hey, Hinata. As the two teams greeted one another and began to enter the room, Hinata blushed and then said, Hello, Naruto-kun. She placed her head on his shoulder. However, in front of the doors, Kakashi and Kurenai emerged in puffs of smoke. According to Kakashi, Yo, I see all of you are here. That makes things easier, he grinned broadly. Kiba inquired, What do you mean? If either of your teams had a member missing, said Kurenai, we could not let you pass. But you don't have to worry, since all of you are here. All but the two genin gave Kakashi a perplexed look when he said, oh, before I forget, Naruto, Hinata, how are you two coming along with the third stage of that jutsu? Naruto grinned. He said, we mastered it yesterday, and Kakashi performed a face vault. Kakashi complained and stood up. Damn it, Naruto, you and Hinata are making me look bad. It took me a month to master that, and it took you 2 a week. Hinata flushed in shame as Naruto scratched the back of his head. Naruto uttered, hey, sorry, sensei. Kakashi let out a sigh. He disappeared in a cloud of smoke after saying, well, anyway, you all are cleared to enter. Show them what you're made of. Kurenai followed him shortly after. Kiba questioned Naruto and Hinata, what jutsu was Kakashi sensei talking about? Naruto said, sorry, Kiba, but you'll have to find out, and then he opened the doors and entered, the others trailing behind. Inside, they observed more than 100 genin glaring at desks while standing or sitting on them. As Naruto glanced at their headbands, he saw that genin from various villages were coming in. Sasuke whispered, why are they glaring at us? As he adjusted his sunglasses, Shino remarked, they're probably angry that rookies are taking part. You would be too if you worked hard to get here, and discovered that some rookies are also participating. Naruto remarked, true, but they shouldn't glare at us. Hinata whispered, I'm getting a little worried, to her boyfriend. Don't be, Naruto reassured her. A well-known voice practically yelled, hey, Sasuke. Sasuke scowled as he was glomped from behind. He noticed Ino behind him. Sasuke deadpanned, his expression indicating that he did not want her to embrace him. Ino, get off me, he said. Troublesome, Shikamaru remarked as he approached with Choji. Naruto said, hey guys, before giving Ino a quick thumbs up, I think you lost something. Shikamaru laughed. At least she's getting better. What about the one on your team? Naruto remarked, she's not much of a fangirl anymore. Sakura went over and twisted Ino's arms away from Sasuke to demonstrate his point. Sakura shook her head and yelled, Ino.pig, quit being a fangirl and start acting like a kunoichi. Ino shot back, maybe you should follow your own advice. The rookies turned to see a Konoha genin with silver hair tied in a small ponytail at the base of his neck, wearing a white short-sleeved shirt with a purple sleeveless bodysuit over it and combat wraps around his waist. Before Sakura could clarify that she did, a voice said, hey, you guys. Do us all a favor, and shut up. You're all rookies, right? Fresh out of the academy? This isn't a game, you know, and here you are acting like brats. Glaring at the genin, Ino questioned, who asked you? And who are you? The genin uttered, name's Yakushi, Kabuto Yakushi, can't you sense the mood? He asked, jerking his thumb at the other genin, whose glares had become more intense. What? You want some? Come and get it, yelled Kiba, who is a protective person, as the genin directed their murderous intent at him. Alright, cool your jets. You should be ashamed you let a rookie get to you so easily, Naruto said, shaking his head and thinking, fool. After giving it some thought, the genin lowered their ki. A few even hung their heads in embarrassment. Kabuto gave Naruto a look. Impressive. You even got the foreign ninja to back off. He went on to say, the rest of you remind me of what I was like during my first time here. Sakura inquired, so this isn't your first time? Naruto became suspicious when Kabuto replied, it's actually my 7th. The 7th? He reasoned that the tests couldn't be that difficult. I concur, Lael remarked. There's something strange about this guy. You can consider yourselves lucky I'm in a giving mood. I have quite a bit of information about the exams in general, Kabuto said, and Naruto nodded in his head. Sasuke questioned, what about individuals? Kabuto said, that depends, and produced a deck of cards. That made one of the genin in the crowd tense. All of my information is here, hidden to all eyes but my own unless I channel chakra into them. Mind if I give you a rundown of the exams before you ask about anyone? Fine, said Sasuke. Instead of listening to Kabuto, Naruto said in a whisper to Kiba. Hey, could you check this guy's scent? He wanted to make sure the man wasn't a traitor because he knew Kiba's nose was 5,000 times more sensitive than other people's. Kiba nodded in confusion, sniffed, and wrinkled his nose. He looked at his dog Akamaru, who barked softly, indicating that he smelled the same thing. He smells of snake and blood, lots of it. Medicine, too. When Naruto and Hinata recalled Takeshi's words, their eyes widened a little. A man smelling of snakes and a crystal bearer with a red right arm attacked my mate and kit, and killed them. According to the genin in question, shinobi villages from all over are participating in the exams, Even a new village called Sound sent a team. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Kabuto. Ino remarked, just one? They must really be weak. No, they're new. I wouldn't underestimate the team they sent, though, Kabuto replied. Sasuke said, can I get information on individuals now? Kabuto knelt down and said, sure, who do you want? Gaara from the Hidden Sand and Rock Lee from Konoha, Sasuke replied. Neji said, and Naruto Uzumaki, as she approached with a brown-eyed, brown-haired kunoichi dressed in dark blue jeans and a pink battle shirt. Her hair was styled in Chinese buns. Neji, why are you getting information on someone from our village? Asked the youngster. Same reason this guy is getting info on Lee, Neji remarked, gesturing towards Sasuke. Kabuto pulled out 3 cards and poured chakra into them, saying, okay, I'll do your request, just let me get done with his first. Alright, it looks like Gaara's first. He's from the Hidden Sand, is a year younger than you guys, and is on a team with his older siblings Kankuro and Temari, with his sensei being a Jonin named Baki. He's completed 8 C rank missions and... Whoa, a B rank. I don't have much else, but I do know that he's completed all his missions without even a scratch. Weird. Naruto scowled. Though he knew why, he remained silent. Next up is Rock Lee. Kabuto reinserted Gaara's card. He's from Konoha and is a year older than you all. Maeda Guy is his sensei, and Neji Hyuga and Tenten are his teammates. He can use chakra to walk on water and climb trees, but he lacks ninjutsu and genjutsu because of an odd mutation that stops him from molding chakra for them. Don't underestimate him, though, because his taijutsu skills are incredible. He has earned 11 C ranks and 20 D ranks. Sasuke scowled at Lee, who grinned at the news. Kabuto put Lee's card back and said, alright, now it's Neji's request. Let's see. One of the Konoha rookies is Naruto Uzumaki. Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha are his teammates, and Kakashi Hatake is his sensei. Despite being dead last in the academy, he has fairly good taijutsu, genjutsu, and ninjutsu for a genin. He has earned an A rank, 14 D ranks, and a joint B rank with another team. Kabuto didn't finish before Naruto swiped the card and deck away, revealing that known jutsus are shadow clones. Ross. A. Your cards don't appeal to me. Naruto used a minor fire jutsu that Takeshi had taught him to burn them, saying, they're too nosy. Before Kabuto could respond, a Jonin and a number of Chunin emerged in smoke plumes at the front of the room. The Jonin, who had scars all over his face and wore his Konoha headband like a bandana, was dressed in a black knee-length jacket, a gray shirt with lots of pockets, black gloves, and gray pants. The Chunin were dressed similarly, except for the jacket and gloves. All right, you maggots. I will be your first exam proctor. My name is Ibiki Morino. Submit your applications now, pick up a seating assignment card, and proceed to the seat that the card indicates. The written portion of the test will then be distributed. Now get moving. Ibiki said, okay, I'm only going to say this once, so pay attention. After everyone had been seated for a few minutes, with Naruto and Hinata sitting next to each other in the third row close to the center, while the rest of their teams were dispersed throughout the room. You must be aware of a few exam rules, and you are not permitted to ask any questions. Everyone begins with 10 points. According to the first rule, each of the 10 questions on the test is worth 1 point. Every question you miss costs you a point. Second, it's a team test as well. The total of the points that each cell's 3 members possess determines whether a cell passes or fails. The goal is for each team to lose as few points as possible. He wrote the rules on the blackboard as he was saying them. That's when Sakura said, I don't understand. This is a team test, why? Ibiki replied, shut up and listen. I said no questions. The most crucial rules are the next 2. The third rule states that each member of the cheater's team will lose 2 points if the proctors find that the candidate is cheating and they do anything unusual. Regardless of how well the other players perform, the final rule states that if one player loses all of their points, their squad is eliminated. A number of genin yelled, what, you heard me. Additionally, the last question will be asked 45 minutes later, Ibiki retorted, you can start. What the heck? You have to be a genius to answer these. Why would they? Oh, Naruto scowled as he turned over his paper. Exactly, Naruto, Takeshi responded. This isn't an intelligence test. It's a test to see how good your information gathering skills are and how stealthy you are. Naruto thought, well, aside from shadow clones, I don't know any jutsu to help. Takeshi said, I can help. Give me control for a minute. Naruto sagged a little before Takeshi, who was now controlling his host's body, straightened him up, went over the exam sheet, and began answering the questions while Hinata began hers. Gradually, the genin understood the purpose of the test and began to attempt to cheat without being caught. As time went on, roughly 1/4 of the teams were eliminated for cheating. After 10 minutes, Takeshi completed answering Naruto's sheet and returned control to him. At 45 minutes into the test, Ibiki said, "Set down your pencils. The 10th question is about to be asked of you. Let me tell you a special rule first, though." The majority of the genin thought, "More rules?" Ibiki put Kankuro on guard and said, "Hey, it seems the time you've spent playing with dolls hasn't been wasted." After Kankuro had returned from the restroom during the test with his puppet dressed as a proctor escorting him, "Sit down." As he passed Tamari, Kankuro walked to his seat and discreetly answered her questions. Kankuro sat down, and Ibiki declared, "This last rule is absolute. First, you have to decide whether or not to take the 10th question." "Choose. What happens if we don't accept the question?" Tamari inquired. Ibiki clarified, "You will lose all your points and your team fails," while Naruto squinted. "So why would we decide not to respond to it?" a genin shouted at random. Because of the next part of the rule, Ibiki stated, "If you do choose to take it and get it wrong." Ibiki added, prompting some genin to ask, what else can he add? "You will never be allowed to take the Chunin exams again." "That is nonsense. Dozens of people here have taken this exam more than once," Kiba yelled. "I guess you're just unlucky," Ibiki said with a sadistic laugh. "Before, I didn't make the rules, but now I do. You still have 6 more months to change your mind. And then another 6 months later. Are you ready?" The genin shivered. "Let's get started. People should raise their hands if they don't want to answer the question. They'll depart with their team as soon as their number is verified." A genin beside Naruto raised his hand a few seconds later and said, I'm out." This sparked a wave of resignations, and before long, there were only half as many teams left as there had been. "Who else?" Ibiki inquired. "No way I'm letting her give up," Naruto thought as he looked to his right and saw Hinata beginning to raise her hand before he raised his own and slammed it against the desk. "Is something wrong, number 23? Ibiki inquired. "Yeah, you're a bunch of bullshit. On a mission, we will inevitably encounter uncertainty, but does that mean we can ignore it?" said Naruto. "Absolutely not, you have to take chances to be a ninja." "Are you certain of this? You will always be a genin if you give the wrong answer." "What the heck? Damn it, if we work on our skills, I'll still become Hokage and my team will still receive high ranking missions. When it comes to skill, rank is meaningless. This will have an impact on you for the rest of your life. Is that what you really want? Try your hardest. Damn kid, ruining my fun." Ibiki glanced around and saw that the genin who were about to quit lowered their hands with a determined expression on their faces. "All right, since nobody else is quitting, I have one thing to say. All of you pass." There was silence for a few seconds, followed by a group, "What?" echoed around the room. Ibiki was about to explain when something burst through the window and opened to reveal a sexy woman standing in front of a banner that read, "Your second proctor, the sexy mistress, Anko Midarashi." The woman, who had to be Anko, had brown eyes without pupils, purple hair tied in a ponytail that spiked in all directions, and an open light brown trench coat over a mesh shirt, a light brown skirt that reached halfway to her knees, and mesh shorts. "None of you are in a position to celebrate. I'm Anko Midarashi, your second proctor," she yelled. "Go with me to the next section of the test." From behind the banner, Ibiki exclaimed, "You're early, Anko, again." After blushing slightly in shame, Anko counted the genin. 78 genin. "Ibiki, if you allowed 26 teams to pass, you must be losing ground. Or this year, we might have outstanding applicants. In particular, the blonde occupying the 5th seat in the 3rd row." Ibiki uttered in a whisper. Anko looked to see Naruto sitting in the seat Ibiki indicated. "Yeah, right. Before the next test is over, I'll reduce the number by half." "By half?" Several genin thought. "All right, come with me. I'll explain the details when we get there," Anko shouted before leading the genin to the next part of the exam.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.